Okay.
Okay.
So if I do application window,
and then that.
and then that, and share that, it should
That's weird. I don't know
see.
why.
Yeah, it's, I don't know why it's doing that.
Hide.
Oh, can you pause that, honey? Okay. Wow, this
See, you
is.
can see it. See, everybody else is.
Yeah. So it's like yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's not working.
All right. So.
All right.
But when you talk about somebody, you should introduce them, not just say, let them know that you have a celebrity on that works worldwide and is licensed and I groom, and then that's my opinion.
Lee, I'm sorry, but this show is really about Bijou's role and just making sure that. I'm sorry, but okay. So let me just thank you so much, everybody, for joining Ask Jun the Groomer live. We're live right now, right?
Yes. Okay, hold on. There's somebody. Okay, so playing the video, and we have to put it on pause.
Oh yeah, Rosemary or Michael, could you lower or I think we're getting feedback.
Playing the video, and we have to put it on pause.
Yeah, Rosemary or Michael, could you lower I think we're getting feedback. I'm gonna mute everyone. Okay, so I'm gonna mute everybody here. Okay, so I muted that. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we got it under control. Right?
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are going to start this over again. Okay. So today's topic, we are going to talk about Pet Groomers Licensing Act. Okay, currently this is happening in New Jersey. We have a few guests with us today. One is Rosemary. One is Michael Bachelor. And then we also have Lee Day. No, did you?
Oh, I think we lost Lee Day.
We lost
Okay,
Lee.
it's okay though, because honestly,
okay, let's go ahead and introduce Rosemary first.
Yes, so Rosemary, the way so if you guys have been following our YouTube channel or our social media for any amount of time, because the past at least 3 years, because that's when I really got the idea, because I went to a salon out in Arizona, and I had a conversation with the nail stylist and about how she got licensed and licensed as a nail technician. And it had nothing to do with styling or color. It had everything to do with sanitation and knowing the anatomy and, biology of the cuticles and nails. So anyways, that's where I got the idea. So I've been really vocal about needing some sort of licensing, needing some sort of regulation in the grooming industry. Not about styling or how to do the haircut or how to trim the dog. Not that. That's all personal artistic style. I'm talking about sanitation, safety, handling, these things. We should license groomers and test their knowledge on the anatomy of the skin and coat, chemicals, different things like that, so that we have a base knowledge. Everybody's on a level playing field as far as knowledge goes. So then I heard about Bijou's Law. In Rosemary, Bijou's mom, she took her dog Bijou to a groomer, and like everybody else, assumed that this groomer was licensed. After her dog died, the thing is, once she realized that she never even had the option. Even if she wanted to drop her dog off to a licensed pet groomer, there's no option to do that because there's no licensing out there. So that's when she got with her legislative. I should have wrote the notes down. I actually had it on my phone, but anyways.
We can get into that later.
Yeah, we can actually have her. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to get a backstory about how when I met and why I wanted to bring her on this show to help explain the skill and to help calm some, I guess, fears people have about.
Okay, so should we start with Rosemary?
Yes, let's start with Rosemary.
Rosemary, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see my picture. I guess my camera's not camera. All right. Well, at least you can hear me. We've had enough technical difficulties, so I'll get right to the heart of the matter, which is why we're here tonight. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me this forum to speak about dog grooming and licensing. Very quickly, an overview. What happened to me is I had a 6-year-old Shih Tzu named Bijou, and I took him to a well-known pet store chain for a routine grooming, at which time the groomer said to me, "I hope this dog doesn't give me a hard time. I had a bad day." And I did not know that I was going to lose my pet that night. Within 45 minutes, the dog groomer called me and let me know that Bijou had died. They didn't offer me any explanation. Nobody came out and spoke with me. I called the police and made a police report, and that was basically about all that happened. I asked to speak to the groomer. I asked to speak to management, and I asked to see the grooming area. They would not let me do that. Took me about a year to grasp this whole situation. And this is how I came to learn that dog groomers weren't licensed. Now, I purposely sought out a big box chain, thinking if anybody's licensed, bonded, insured, it's got to be these big chain stores. Never occurred to me that not only weren't they licensed, no state, I think maybe Connecticut has something in place that would require licensing. So I found that appalling, actually, to think that my nail tech and my beautician and my locksmith is licensed, but my dog groomer isn't. I think this is a loophole here that a lot of big box stores have got away with for a really long time. And now it's catching up because dog grooming is booming. Pet ownership is up, and it continues to go up. And the amount that people spend on their dogs go up by huge numbers. So it's about time that dog groomers become licensed. I went to my local assembly person, which is Valerie Vanieri Huddle. I met with her, and I said to her, Valerie, I have a situation, if I may, and explain to you what happened to me. She said, absolutely. She said, you got about 5 minutes to tell me what happened, and either I listen or this conversation's over. I said, absolutely. And I didn't even get into the first couple of sentences when I told her Bijou had died and that dog groomers weren't licensed. She was appalled, as most of the people in the assembly, in the Senate, in the state of New Jersey, and in the whole country own dogs. I think it's something like, I have the percentage here somewhere, I can find it, how many people own dogs in this country. It's absurd. And to think that dog groomers aren't licensed is outrageous. NewJersey.com did an amazing report, an undercover investigative report showing that 47 dogs, and that was reported, had died in the hands of one of these big box chain stores, which only furthered my motivation to go ahead and seek out licensing. Now, I know, June, we've all heard that some people think that I was doing this as an affront to groomers. It is not. I assure you, if anything, I have more respect for groomers than I ever had, understanding just how difficult their job is, having gone through this. What I'm happy to say is that the AKC, United Paws of California, New Jersey Pet Groomers Association, and the New Jersey State Assembly are all behind this bill. So we have a real good chance of passing this law in New Jersey and making New Jersey one of the first states to enact a full licensing procedure for dog groomers, for which many dog groomers, many dog owners are very happy to see. And it's long, long overdue. And I think we all know that when we start our story and I say, my dog groomer isn't licensed, people say, oh, what do you mean they're not licensed? So people are just learning that dog groomers aren't licensed. So the conversation ends there once they hear that they're not licensed. So what I did, after I spoke with Assemblywoman, I sought out private counsel. And I had private counsel, pet owners, and pet groomers all weigh in on this bill. This isn't something that I put forth on my own. I had a lot of professionals come through and put their claim to this bill as to how this should be written and what it should do. So if I may, I'll speak to a couple of those points, unless you want to speak, June.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking before we continue on, I would like to bring Michael in.
Absolutely.
And so that, whoa! Okay, I would like to bring Michael in so he can introduce himself and tell us how he met you, and then we'll get into questions because there's a lot of comments coming in.
Perfect. So we'll
we
unmute Michael. Unmute Michael, and then we're gonna mute. We're gonna mute Rosemary.
Okay. Thank you for your patience, everybody, because this is our first time.
Okay.
This.
Hold on. Michael has his. Oh, Michael, could you unmute? I think he's muted. He muted on his end. Michael, could you unmute your mic so we can?
It should be unmuted now.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and unmute. We're gonna mute our mic after we introduce Michael. And Michael Batchelor, he is from North Carolina, and he is a big advocate, and he's getting legislation pushed through in North Carolina to get dog groomers licensed. Michael, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, June. My name is Michael, and the way I met Rosemary is in January of this year. I took my dog Gunner in to be groomed, and I too was unaware that groomers are unregulated and unlicensed. And when I went to pick him up, his eyes were extremely red and bloodshot. They were a deep dark red. I took him to the vet, and she said his injuries most likely occurred from having something tied around his neck for an extended period of time. So at the time, I was just upset, so I created a Facebook post about it, and it started getting lots of attention. So I created a group called Justice for Gunner and Other Fur Babies. And in like 4 days' time, we had like 10,000 members who were many of the members were sharing similar stories of their pets being injured or killed during the grooming process. And it just blew up quickly. So I had to have some folks in the group start helping me moderate it because it was growing so quickly. And after creating the group, and it had been up for about a week and a half, Rosemary reached out to me, and she explained to me what she had been doing and everything she had gone through and all the struggles that she had had trying to get grooming regulated in New Jersey. So her and I teamed up and started working together. She works in my group, and my group and her bill are connected to each other. And during that time, so it was easier, I also created a website, which is at the top of the comments in the link, which is called justiceForOurFurBabies.com. And it's basically where people have given me the stories of their pets being injured or killed at a groomer. And it's basically where you can go and read the story, see pictures. And it's just to spread awareness, because even since I've started the group, we've still had people join the group that have had horrible experiences during the grooming process. So, even though we're trying to spread the word, we're not spreading it fast enough, and pets are still being injured or killed. And so, I reach out to every media outlet that I can, anybody that'll listen or tell our story, so that we can prevent as many injuries as we can until we can get grooming in place. And hopefully, it's a time-consuming process. It's not something that can go overnight. It takes a lot of voting, and it's not something we can do instantaneously. So spreading the word is the best way to prevent the injuries until we can get the regulations in place.
So, exactly. Thank you so much, Michael. And first, I'm sorry to hear about Gunner. And thank you for that. And what I like what you're saying is that you're just trying to create awareness, get more people aware about this topic, about this subject. Like, hey, did you know that you don't even have the option to take your dog to a licensed groomer? There's not even that option.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Exactly.
And the example that I like to use is my daughter. If I took my daughter to a hairstylist that was unlicensed, but I did it knowingly, and something happened, I wouldn't be able to live with myself, the guilt, knowing that I did that knowingly, to maybe get a cheaper haircut. But if and I know that her scalp being burned by chemicals or something could
or
still.
What if he gave her lice?
Give my daughter lice or something. But I know that having a license won't stop a hairstylist from doing that. But I'd rather take my chances with the licensed hairstylist than an unlicensed hairstylist. And right now, with dog grooming, there's not even that option.
Exactly.
So, we're gonna go through some questions coming in here. Does anybody have any questions for either Michael or Rosemary? We still don't have video on Rosemary yet. But any questions for either Michael or Rosemary?
I never thought of. Okay, so hold on. Daria says there's two things that can happen. One, groomers turn away a lot of dogs, pre-existing breeds, seniors, dogs that come in pulling on a leash, jumps off tables, tear nails off in crates. Or two, owners start
to bring their dogs in regularly. Okay, so here's I took some like bullet point notes about the bill that I liked. One thing that I did like is that just pointing out, turning away dogs. Okay, so pet incident files. This is something that I wanted to bring up because you can't even really see it, huh? But the pet incident file, part of this bill includes businesses required to keep a pet incident file. So that means that, maybe. Okay, so that means that a pet incident file report will be submitted annually, no later than 10 days after the incident. And it's pet injuries sustained during the grooming that require vet contact, severe pet illnesses, veterinary treatment. So severe pet illnesses, this would fall under like she said, senior dogs that have illnesses and things like that. We can fill out an incident report about this illness, this dog that came in with this illness. This protects groomers. This actually helps us keep pet owners accountable. Because check this out. Part of severe pet illness would be a dog with the nails growing out so long that it curves back into the paws, and it's matted head to toe, and it's in really it's in severe condition. That would be severe owner neglect. That would fall under severe pet illnesses. And we, as pet groomers, licensed pet groomers, can file an incident report on that and submit it 10 days, no more later than 10 days, and every year annually. Pet deaths, vet treatment plans, even pet escapes, and they even you can go to the bill and read the definition, but they even spell out what an incident would mean. So this bill, I think, covers a lot. I mean,
I'm sorry, honey.
It's okay.
Oh wait, Michael and Rosemary, did we mute them? Did we mute you, or did you mute yourself?
No, I muted them.
Okay, instead of muting them, maybe you guys can mute on your end, and then if you want to join in on the conversation, then you can unmute yourself.
That's okay. That's what we'll do. So okay. So
did you
didn't
get that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
Rosemary,
I hear you.
Okay,
Perfect. So
and then Michael, did you get that?
Yeah. So anytime you guys want to chime in.
Yes, I got it. I muted mine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so
any questions coming in?
I'm going to skip through that.
Okay.
So I feel like Kelsey Ann says, I feel like it's our duty as groomers to help reassure clients that we can handle the situation. What better way than to be licensed?
2 thumbs up, Kelsey Ann.
I know I would have loved to have more education in the beginning.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Here's what I love is that, okay, I'm just going to kind of skip through, kind of jump back and forth. But hold on. You know what? We'll just go one at a time. But what I love is that they're gonna hold 4 testing locations. 4 tests all throughout the year at different locations in the state. So let's say in New Jersey, you live on one end of New Jersey, and you can wait till there's a test in your area and take a test. There's also going to be state licensed schools if you need extra education to pass the written exams.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Emma Pierce, I think this needs to be a two-way street though. Dogs can't brush their hair or cut their nails. Pet owners should be held accountable for bringing their dogs in regularly and taking care of them.
Exactly.
Can I say something
yes,
real quick?
Yes.
If you are licensed groomer, then you are considered a professional. So that's our job as a professional licensed groomer to educate the pet owners. And if the pet owners do not have time to maintain their dog's coat, then you can educate them and have the clients come in more regularly. Maybe offer a service like what we call a dry bath, is where you do the maintenance groom in between the grooms.
Yes.
So their dog doesn't get too mad.
This is what I love, that they actually included this in the bill, and I put this in quotes. The board shall undertake a public information campaign to educate and inform the consumers of the state of the provisions of this act. So, and they're going to distribute booklets, pamphlets, other written pertinent information. They're going to have a toll-free number for consumers. Again, like Kelsey Ann said, giving the consumers peace of mind. Now, who's the board? A lot of people, there's some confusion about who the board members are going to be. The board is going to be consisted of, and this is going to be okay. We talked.
I'm
sorry about that, guys.
I must have moved it. I'm so sorry about that.
What I was saying is that the board members, what I like about this, the way it's set up, is that it's a 5-4 vote. That means that if 4 pet groomers agree on one thing and they want to get something, they want to get some decision voted through, they only have to convince one other person on the board. But if only the pet groomers agree on one thing and none of the other members agree, there's a way there's checks and balances here. So it's not just pet groomers making decisions without taking anyone else's perspective into consideration. So I love this checks and balances way. And there's 4 pet groomers on the board, each serving 3-year terms. So max 2 terms. So one person can only serve a maximum of 6 years. There's no pay. No one's getting paid. And it's a public because it's a public service.
Which is awesome, considering in cosmetology, you're exempt after 25 or 28 years. So after 6 years.
They can only serve a max of 6 years. So there can't be like a dynasty going on here, like not one person just ruling forever. Now, let's talk about eligibility. And Rosemary, Michael, anytime you want to chime in. Eligibility, you got to be 18 years old, of good moral character, meaning they're going to do a background check, meaning they're looking for violent history. You don't want to have anybody with a domestic violence or animal abuse, those kind of things in their background. They need a passive exam prepared by the board, practical test. Now, here's the thing. Rosemary's telling me the written exams, you can actually take them online. You don't even have to go to the facility. You can take the written test online. Practical exam is just to show your competence to practice pet grooming. let's keep this moving here. Schools, they must secure a license from the board. So now you won't have these pop-up schools. You know, this one lady came to me from California. I won't name the school, but she got ripped off. Okay, so you won't have these schools taking people's money without actually teaching them the skill. All the teachers must be licensed pet groomers. That makes sense. If you're teaching pet grooming, you want to be taught by a licensed pet groomer. Board shall develop pet grooming curriculum. And here's what I like. They're going to collaborate with the schools to utilize and incorporate industry best practices and standards. They're not just going to be telling us what to do. They're going to be working in collaboration with the schools and with the teachers.
That's right, June. This is going to be a comprehensive movement for groomers and for everybody, for pet owners, dog groomers, and pets, to make sure that they're getting the best care they can when going to the groomer.
Exactly, exactly. This is not only elevating the industry and raising the public image of dog groomers, but it's giving the consumers, the pet owners dropping off their babies, it's giving them peace of mind.
Okay, hold on. Before we move on, Emma Pierce, at home as well, people who come in once or twice a year and we find things, underlying issues are often blamed. So if we are keeping track of it in incidents, will owners be held accountable as well?
Exactly. Because that's the thing. If an owner is jumping from shop to shop with a crazy Great Pyrenees that's just tearing people's heads off, and the dog's also causing injury to himself, and we're keeping an incident report and we're filing it with the state and it's submitted every year, then we can start to track a pattern. And the next time this dog throws another fit and possibly injures someone or himself, and the pet owner tries to slander or tries to make the shop look negative, now we can pull public records and say, no, look,
right,
this dog has a record, has a pattern of doing this. It protects the pet groomers.
Right.
Well, and also, you know, it goes both ways. I think it helps protect the pet owners as well.
Exactly.
If something happens, if the pet groomer does something.
Exactly. Now they can.
It goes both ways.
Now they can have a incident report that they can read and say, okay, this is what happened when my dog got injured.
Right.
So
Exactly.
The fees, $75 for 2 years and only $50 to renew for another 2 years. Now, when I read this, I actually had to reread it. I rubbed my eyes. I was like, wait a minute, what? Because when I was reading through the bill, I honestly expected to see a number closer to $250. And I told Rosemary that. I was like, I cannot believe it's only $75 for 2 years. You know, like what? And that to me proves that the motto, I guess, the slogan for this campaign is pets over profits. This to me is walking the talk. You know, it's showing that they're not trying to make a profit. This is about the pets. So it's only $75 for 2 years and $50 to renew. And Rosemary was telling me that when they did the calculations, they calculated that it actually had to be, I think, $150. But they were saying that if this really is for the pet groomers and the small business owners, then let's make it not burdensome to them. That's what she said. That's what they said when they made this bill. They didn't want it to be burdensome on the pet groomers.
Well, also, and Blue Flame says this law will definitely raise the price of the groom. I worked in the medical field for over a decade before grooming. So it's because you're going to be looked at as a professional.
I don't have any problem with that. I have no problem with getting paid more for a groom. I mean,
okay.
And June, people are willing to pay more. I mean, this isn't. Look, we got together. When I say we, I mean myself and Assemblywoman and the people who have put this bill together. The fee could have been much, much more. We purposely kept it at a low. We are probably underselling ourselves here because we want groomers to go out, the good groomers to go out, say, listen, I'm a licensed professional. They have the autonomy to go out, start their own business for $75 is what this comes down to. I mean, it's not an astronomical fee. It's not a fee that shouldn't put anybody out of business. I mean, if $75 is going to put you out of business, then there's a bigger problem here.
yeah.
But it's certainly affordable, and we purposely kept it below a certain number so that pet groomers can afford it. We're not out to put pet groomers out of business.
And when I saw the prices, it was evident to me that that's true.
Right.
So any questions?
Yeah. Is Doggy's Time says or has a question for Rosemary.
Sure.
Rosemary, do you have an account of how many of these issues are because of dogs in poor shape? From what I have read and discovered, talking to pet owners, most of them were regularly groomed.
No, I don't have an ongoing account, but NewJersey.com did an investigative report. And you can find that on bijousbill.com under press, or look up NewJersey.com. And they did an 8-month undercover investigative report as to 47 dogs dying, for which there's no accountability. So there's an issue here. There's a huge issue here, and it's about time that we start closing up these loopholes and have licensed professionals handle our pets.
Exactly. I mean, how many more dogs? What's the number that we need to hit before people take this seriously?
June, I get notified as incidents occur. I get notified. I get the text. So does Michael. Michael does as well. We get notified of every one of these deaths and injuries. I mean, it's technology now. We get it within an instant as to what's going on. I mean, it's outrageous that dog groomers haven't been licensed years and years and years ago.
Daria makes a good point, right?
Yeah, Daria says, I have 11 certifications for grooming. Skin and Code, dye. Oh, color.
Yeah.
Okay, dye, NDGAA, etc. I still had a dog with 1 kidney that the owner did not tell me. The dog's pee smelled so bad. I mentioned it, and then they told me.
Yeah, so this is a good example of keeping incident reports. So that way, if they jump shop and they go to another shop, at least that other shop has that incident report that you filed.
And another groomer could pull up that incident report and see what's going on. Because if there's neglect or abuse going on, the groomer has the right to report that.
Okay. Josh Morales, question for Rosemary. Can you explain the step-by-step process you took to get this bill passed?
Sure.
Any idea on what the groomers will have to do in New Jersey, and how long will they have to certify?
Or get licensed, I guess.
Absolutely. The steps that I took is basically what I said earlier, is I went to my local assembly member and told her of this situation, and that I had a solution, and that I was going to hire private counsel to go ahead and put together a bill. That was great for them because it made it easier on the legislature, because all they had to do was tighten up for it to work. As far as well, I'm sorry, what was the second half of that question?
Any idea on what the groomers will have to do in New Jersey?
Yes. The groomer, if you're grooming now, if you're a current groomer in the state of New Jersey, we would ask you we're not asking you to go back to school or get recertified or do anything like that, because there's many people who have been practicing for years. We ask you the same thing as somebody who was just coming out of school. You take a written test online and a practical test in one of our 4 locations. It'll be the same across the board. It's just that some people have much more experience, so their passing the testing will be quite easy. Some will be just coming up to the front, coming out of school, and then going to take a test. So it's the same either way, whether you have the experience or not. But for those who have the experience, it would just probably be a breeze, actually.
And now, just to address some of the requirements, though, pets being groomed. So no, that's the business requirements. Oh, you know what? It was up here. So eligibility, yes. So all they have to be is, as long as you're 18 years old or more. So if you're a groomer now at 16 years old getting paid, I guess you're gonna have to wait 2 more years. But here's the thing: in the bill, they say that if you're 16 years old, you can work as an apprentice under a licensed pet groomer. So, and then pass the exam, practical and written. Yeah, and test out 4 times a year.
So to answer Josh's other question is how long would they have to certify? Because I spoke with a hairstylist and he told me that for cosmetology school they need 1,600 hours, which equals to 1 year. So what would that be like for the dog grooming industry?
Oh, so somebody who's already pet groomer now, how long do they have to get licensed when the bill passes?
1 year.
They have 1 year. Okay. So they have 1 year. Let's say they take the test and they do not pass. Could they take the test again at another at another location? You know, could they take it technically? Like, could they take it 4 times a year?
Yes.
Could they try 4 times?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Is there an amount of times you can take the test?
We didn't put a limit onto how. So some people aren't.
I'm writing this for me because I know I'm gonna have to drive to different locations and take the test multiple times. No, I'm just kidding. How many times can I take this, Rosemary?
We would want you to obviously take the test and pass it on the first time, second time, third time. What we're looking for is quality groomers. If it takes you a couple of times to pass the test, so be it. If that's not a problem. As long as you take it and you pass it and you're within the requirements to get licensed. We're not looking to put people out of business, quite the opposite. So we want you to pass that test, but we also want you to know what you're doing.
Perfect. Next question.
Okay, so
there's a difference a dog having issues of health and a completely healthy dog dying for no reason. Yeah, and here's the thing: the dogs dying at the grooming shops. Yes, that's what caused the public's eye, to focus on the grooming industry, to see, hey, what's going on here? Kind of shine the light what's on the situation. Yes, that it was the dog's death that caused that, but now the issue has passed that. It's beyond that. Now the issue is how long can we allow the grooming profession to continue on unlicensed, unregulated, unchecked? And there's no accountability.
Correct. That's exactly what this bill is meant to do. I mean, it does 2 things. The first thing that it does is it outlaws the use of heated cages. So you cannot put your dog in one of those real hot cages that some of them have cooked in, which I've heard stories of. So it outlaws the use of heated cages, and it requires a groomer to be licensed. That's basically what this bill is.
Now, the heating cages, I noticed that in the bill, it was saying that no drying cages unless the owner gives written consent.
Correct.
And they're educated, they're made aware of all the potential dangers of having a dog in a drying cage. If they give the shop written consent, then the shop is then allowed to use the drying cage.
Correct.
And then I like this: adequate water supply, sanitary conditions in the shop, sufficient lighting. Now, they want the pets being groomed are to be in separate cages that are clean and structurally sound. And there needs to be enough room for the dog to be able to move around comfortably, sit, lay down, turn. And they're saying that if 2 pets are from the same family, it's okay for them to be in the same cage as long as they're able to move around comfortably.
Correct.
I like it. I like it, Rosemary.
Very simple.
I like it.
June, you guys got to know, and who's ever listening out there, this was, and I told you this before, this is not a personal affront against groomers. This is to elevate the grooming industry, have licensed professionals, and hopefully have better people who are grooming our pets and have less incidences that have been coming out as of late.
Exactly.
And probably even more so that we just didn't hear about. I mean, this is just a loophole that needs to be closed. And like I told June, and Michael knows this as well. Every time Michael tells his story, every time I tell my story, the first response we get is, "Oh, groomers aren't licensed." And that was my first reaction as well. And Michael, you could attest to this. And
Michael, I'm sure, was like, what was your first response?
Yeah, Michael, when you first found out, when did you take your dog Gunner to the groomer knowing that that groomer was unlicensed? Did you know?
No, I didn't have any idea that they were unlicensed. I mean, I'd taken Gunner twice before, and I'd also taken one of my other dogs to be groomed and never had any problems. And I mean, I didn't know until Rosemary reached out to me that they were unlicensed. I just assumed they were like the ones that cut my hair. I assumed they had been to school for it, but I didn't know until Rosemary told me.
That's right. And that's what everybody's, as did I. I told you in the beginning of this, as did I. I purposely sought out a big box chain because I figured who else is going to be licensed, bonded, insured than a big box chain? It was quite the opposite in my case. And in many cases, apparently.
All right. So next comment, Patty Rogers. Me, I am a 1-hour groomer that does one pet at a time. I specialize in senior, disabled, aggressive, and hard to handle dogs, cats too. I usually have pet parents assist in the groom for the hard to handle and aggressive dogs and encourage the pet parents to stay if they want to and not rush them out upon drop off like I see most all groomers do.
Okay.
Oh, I guess that was just a comment, not a question.
Okay, so while you look for another question, let's move on. We already covered the pet incident file on the board. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it looks like we covered all of the main points.
Oh my goodness.
The thing is, I can see why Rosemary and Michael were so eager to come on with us. You know, I mean, how amazing this production value here is. I mean, hold on,
please don't. I'm so sorry. Okay, it's doggy time. A huge part of the issue with big box, as well as the way the employees are treated, they are forced to push these babies through like an assembly line.
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Well, and okay, not to change the topic, but I really wanted to hit this point that because I don't know if I think she did, but I just wanted to repeat this, what Rosemary said. Being a licensed professional gives you autonomy. Once you're a licensed professional, it doesn't mean that you have to work under a vet. It means the opposite. It means that you don't have to work under anybody now because you're a licensed professional.
Right. That's absolutely true. That's the whole idea about licensing. If you're a licensed professional, you can go work anywhere or for yourself. You are representing yourself.
Exactly. And then maybe my mom would finally believe me that I actually have a real job.
Oh, you do have a real job. You have a very real job. And I don't think, and that's the problem. I don't think enough people understand and respect what groomers do. And that's what I'm trying to get across. Grooming is not an easy job. And I think maybe at one time it was considered, oh, you know, we're going to go groom a dog. Well, at $6 billion industry a year, it's a job. It's a job. And we need license to do this job. I think it just blew up. It just grew so fast that the law didn't have a chance to catch up to it.
Exactly.
But it is now.
Daria wants to know, is there a grandfather clause for the practical part?
No, there's no grandfather clause. If you, it would just be easier for you having groomed your whole life for years. You would just take the written as well as the practical and go through it.
You're perfect. And you know, I think a little bit of it is about humbling yourself. Because some of them were saying, because some of the comments that I read were groomers saying, I didn't groom 20 years and get certified voluntarily with all these other organizations just to take a step backwards in my career and have to take a practical exam. And I feel like that's a little bit arrogant. I feel that's a little bit their pride getting in the way of moving the industry forward. This is not about us, because I'm in Georgia. By the time this law takes effect here in Georgia, I will probably be retired. So this is not about me. It's about leaving the grooming industry better than I found it for those who come behind me.
That's right.
That's what Rosemary is doing too. She's leaving. She's trying to leave. She's trying to make sure other pet owners don't have to suffer the same loss that she suffered when she lost her closest companion. Okay, so competent according to whom? Anjay asks. So I guess they're talking about the practical exam. They're looking for, you know, the competency, being competent for the practical groom. Anjay is asking competent according to whom?
To the licensed professional who is proctoring the exam.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So So Kelsey Ann, I agree, doggy time. Not even big box stores. I have worked with several non-groomer business owners that force more and more dogs per day, no matter what I said. So this
Exactly.
That's the problem. That's the
I got
problem.
fired. I got fired a couple places. I quit actually.
That's the problem. They're not higher. They're just that's why we're doing pets over profits.
Exactly.
It's
Pets
not
over
profit.
profits.
We're changing that. It's
Can
going to
I
be
tell
pets
you-
over profits.
Can I tell you guys a secret? When I actually
well, it
stopped.
wouldn't be a secret.
Yeah, it's not a secret. Here's my secret. That's not a secret. When I took Jim Rohn's advice, he says when you just stop thinking about the money, if you'll just not stop worrying about the money, and you just do the best you possibly can to serve your client, they will take you by the hand and open doors for you that you never could have imagined for yourself. And I am living proof that that's true. Just stop thinking about the money. Who cares? Don't worry about the money. You're not doing it for the money.
So
the money will come if you're a good groomer. Just like if you're a good beautician, if you're a good nail tech, the money is there.
Yeah.
And even more so, because if you're licensed, you'd be able to set your own pay grade. And trust me, I'd be willing to pay a whole lot more to a groomer if I knew Bijou was getting groomed properly, and there would be a better chance of me getting him back alive.
Exactly.
yeah. So I have a question. Okay. So no, wait, what was it? Okay, so there's groomers. Back to that other comment about a non-groomer business owners. So with this bill, once it passes, so does that mean that a non-groomer is not able to open up a grooming salon anymore, or like
can the owner of a grooming business be a non-licensed pet groomer?
They would get a business license, and the groomers would get grooming licenses.
So then the business owner would not be able to force the groomers to do X amount of dogs every day, like push them through the assembly line, or like,
I mean, it's their business though.
How would that communication work?
Right. That would be handled within each individual grooming salon. That's clearly not something we want to see. But at this point, we're taking baby steps.
Right.
A very large baby step, but a baby step in getting groomers licensed. Then we have to deal with all that comes, what people are doing wrong. But at least having licensed groomers, it's a step in the right direction. So what happened to Gunner, what happened to Bijou, what happened to all of these other dogs are sort of contained. We're looking at it a little more closely. We know if there are people out there who are abusing dogs, there's some kind of recourse to take, and not just like, oh well, I'll get a job someplace else. That's what's happening now. My groomer went on to groom somewhere else, and probably Michael's groomer as well. There's no pulling of license. There's no you can't groom. There's no you can't abuse a dog. You just go somewhere else.
Okay, so on speaking on that note, Kim Halligan wants to know, how does this bill stop people with bad tempers and lack of patience from snapping on a dog? That seems to be the most common issue when pets are harmed at the groomers.
Right. Well, we can't solve all problems all at once, but what it would solve is if this person was a licensed groomer and was caught abusing a dog, there would be a toll-free number that you would call. And eventually that person's license will be pulled if they continue to abuse animals. That's the whole idea.
Yeah. Giving pet parents a way to rectify the situation. I like this question. Yomiko Miyamoto.
Will there be a mandatory continuing education credits like we have for nursing and medicine?
Yes. There will be. You see that $50 to renew? When you go to renew your license, anything that's happening that's new out there, technology or otherwise, they would have to be made privy to in order to renew your license.
Okay, so
So would that include going to like these workshops or okay, perfect.
Yes, they would be conducted in state, for which the board would present anything that's happening that's new. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Speaking of in-state, once you're licensed, you're only a licensed groomer for that state, correct?
Correct.
Perfect.
Just like a lawyer. If you go to a lawyer, they're licensed in New York or they're licensed in New Jersey. They can practice law in those states.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, I'm taking notes down.
Yeah, no. What is the next good question?
There's one here. Oh, okay. So I do.
Wow, there's a lot of questions.
There are a lot of questions, but I have a question.
No, guys, I don't want anybody to feel slighted or ignored. What we're doing is, because there's so many comments coming in and we have such limited time, we're trying to get to the questions that are directly related to the bill, so that we can help clarify any questions people have about it.
Okay, so Blue Flame wants to know, are pet owners willing to pay more per groom? This law will require compliance. With that, will be passed on to the customers.
Yeah, I mean, and I think pet owners, like Rosemary is saying, are right, Rosemary? Michael,
Yes,
would you be willing to pay more for Gunner's groom?
Of course I would. I mean, I'd be willing to pay more, knowing the fact that he's going to be safe when I leave him there, and I don't have to worry about him being injured or killed. I'll gladly pay more to have him groomed.
As would I, and as would most people that I've asked this question to, because I've asked this question. This is not, like I said, this is not to put pet groomers out of business. It's actually the opposite. The cream will rise to the top, and those groomers that are doing excellent work people will gladly pay more to have their dog groomed by somebody that they can bring to and know they're getting their pet groomed properly, safely, and returned in good condition.
And also, in my opinion, I believe that once we pass this and we are considered a professional dog groomer, it's almost like a self-pride.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, now that, okay, I am licensed now, you know, like I'm considered professional. So yes, I do believe that I should charge this amount.
That's right. Yeah. The industry will be looked at differently. It will be looked at like a registered nurse, a licensed professional.
Exactly.
Just a dirty dog washer.
And someone else made the point on Facebook in a comment saying that this actually having licensed schools and state board licensing, this will actually make student loans more available and more legal and practical, and it'll just make everything more legit. Student loans, like actual
right.
Speaking of which, how long would this school be?
There's actually different schools out there. You can look at schools in your state. They all offer somewhat similar curriculums. But whether you go through a school or you come to us with 20 years of experience, you'd still take the same written and practical test.
Now, how would because it says schools must secure license from the board, and now, so we already covered what the board consists of. How would a school go about securing a license from the board?
Right. So as the state of New Jersey, we would look into these schools. I mean, there's not many of them, to make sure that they are up to our standards. Our standards being the state's standards as to what we would consider eligible for licensure. Most of these schools that are out there, they're big schools, and they do have good facilities. They've been in business for a long time. We're just raising the bar.
Okay. Kim Halligan wants to know, that could be false peace of mind. Just because I passed this test doesn't mean I am truly good with animals.
Then you shouldn't be grooming.
Well,
if you're with animals, you shouldn't be grooming.
It's a fair point, Kim, because it's kind of like saying, just because I passed the driver's test doesn't make me a safe driver or a defensive driver. And I actually wasn't when I first passed the test and got my license. I barely passed. And then I had to take a defensive driving classes after I got my DUI. Anyways, what I'm saying though is there was consequences. There was something to revoke. Once they took my license, so what you're saying is just because a groomer passes a test and has a license doesn't make them a safe groomer, but it does give us something to revoke. It does give us something, a recourse, like Rosemary's saying.
Diane Foster, there needs to be a connection between the groomers and vets too. Oftentimes, vets send owners to the groomer for ear plucking. Groomer plucks ears, then an infection starts, groomer gets blamed. And that's why we have created an incident report.
Exactly. Well,
Also, I believe that it's very important for us groomers to know on the test the signs of like an ear infection and tell the pet owners, hey, this ear should not be plugged. It's an ear infection. Go take your dog
and part
to
of
the
it
vet.
is the pet incident file, because that would be something that would fall under veterinary treatment plans, right? Or severe pet illnesses, or just anything. They're saying any event in which the skin of any pet or person is broken. So if the ear looks infected to you, and you're not going to diagnose it because we're not vets, but if it looks yucky and it's swollen and it's raw, it's probably oozing, the skin is probably open. So that would be an incident report.
Ah, I love this one. Okay, so Kelsey Ann says, comfortably, I do 6 dogs in an 8-hour day. I can do more or less depending on the needs. I have worked for businesses that do not listen to that. Walked into a 12-plus dog day, no breaks, no communication. So I guess my question...
And that's where accidents happen.
Yeah, that's where accidents happen, because you're feeling rushed. I got to get this dog. Oh my gosh, this dog won't stay still. And because we're feeling so anxious, the dog's reacting more, and then I think that's how accidents happen. So with the license being put in place, how would that help?
There would be some standards, because it would level the playing field. Everybody would have the same basic knowledge about the skin, about the anatomy, about how to take care of it, so then we understand we can't just push them through. It takes time. So I think by raising the level of knowledge, when we know more,
that goes back to, it depends on who the business owner is, right?
And also I kind of say that as a joke to Rosemary, that I would take the test 4 times, but I really would. And if I didn't pass it on the 4th time that year, I would actually enroll myself to a school, and I would probably stream it live just so everybody can see my embarrassment. And I would document the whole journey going through a state licensed pet school here in Georgia so I can get licensed. I mean, I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, education is the key. When we know better, we can do better.
Right. That's right.
Okay, so Sheena wants to know, where would that money go?
What money? It's only $75.
It's hardly any money. That's the problem. The state's not making much money at all. If anything, it's money that's going to be utilized to run these facilities, to take the test, to put the tests in. I mean, this isn't a whole lot of money for 2 years.
The pet groomers, the 4 pet groomers on the board, they're volunteering their time. They're not getting paid.
Yeah, this isn't a moneymaker. You be sure of that. New Jersey's not making out here financially.
Well, no one is, and that's what I love about this.
No one is.
Because I think that once money is involved, right? Once there's a financial motivation involved, there's just an obvious conflict of interest.
Okay, so Diane Foster, also owners lie to vets about the groomer and the groomer about the vet. We could document owners' dishonesties. We can't just blame the owners. It's a full circle. The vets,
maybe by documenting everything,
the truth will come out.
We might uncover stuff that we never even thought about, just by documenting things better.
Mm-hmm. So then, do you think that the incident report will also be like a mandatory thing for vets also?
I think vets have something like this.
Yeah, vets do have something in place. I mean, they're specialized. It's a little bit different than this. I mean, we're looking at a industry that's not even regulated and licensed. Vets are, doctors, so they're on a different playing field than we are. But what we're trying to do is sort of even that playing field a little bit by giving the groomers a registered licensed profession.
And what I like is that this only adds to what the grooming industry already has, because the grooming industry already has voluntary certifying organizations that are doing a great job. But the problem is it's voluntary. And so most people aren't doing it. And so what this does is, just like vets, just like doctors, they can go and pursue other specialties and workshops, and they can do things above and beyond what they're required to do to help them stand out in the marketplace. And that's what groomers can do as well. You can be licensed and continue to get your certifications at these voluntary organizations, showing your clients, showing the marketplace, I go the extra mile. Not only am I licensed, I'm certified.
Right. And like we said earlier, by being licensed, you have that ability to be more autonomous and go out and make the money that you deserve to make.
Yes. So Emma Pierce says, Diane Foster, yes, I've spoken with several vets and a close family friend who runs an emergency clinic. They have all said grooming is not touched on. I think it's actually something that should be.
Yeah.
And it's Doggy Time says, Kim Halligan, I think they are asking for a criminal background check. A huge part of the issue as well is the big box companies use their money to cover it up. See it all the time.
So I have a question for Michael. Michael, you're doing a lot in North Carolina right now as far as getting the legislation to move forward with licensing in North Carolina, and you're not into politics, right? You're not a politician professionally, right? I mean, like, so somebody else in another state, how can they do what you're doing in North Carolina, let's say in South Dakota?
I basically Googled who all the representatives from my county were, the county that I live in, and I reached out to all those via email, and I basically kind of gave them how the story went and what was going on. And I had one that responded back saying that in January 2019, she would be glad to start the process of creating the same as Bijou's building it here in North Carolina. So I basically just found representatives for my county and reached out to them.
Your local county, not your state level.
No, just I tried the state level, and they referred me back down to the county representatives first. So those are the ones that I reached to after that.
Okay, so if there's a concerned pet owner in any state in America right now, all they have to do is contact their local representatives. And
right, correct, the one for their county that they live in.
And okay. June, I could speak to this a little bit, like with Michael and I have been working together for a number of months. But for anybody who wants to do this in their state, if you go to bijousbill.com, at the bottom of the first page, you can actually print out the bill. You bring that bill after you've read it and you've learned it, because they're going to ask you questions. And it's only 7 pages. It's not a big deal. You read that bill, and it's not also legal jargon. I mean, it's very easy to read. I made it that way purposely. Anybody from any state can take that bill that they've downloaded off of my site, take it to your local, in Michael's case, local. I took it to my assembly person. Each state is a little bit different, and say that you want to enact or introduce Bijou's bill to your state.
Perfect. We did that.
Yeah, and I've already done that. And so that's perfect. And then, so you're saying, like, Michael, you're saying that basically I just have to contact my local, at the county level, representative and ask them to consider legislation for licensing groomers?
Yes, that's correct. I reached out to the state level first, and they told me they gave me the names of my county representatives, and then I reached to all 3 of them, and one of them responded back saying that they would be glad. They thought it was a good subject, and they would be glad to take it up. And they explained to me that it has to be done like every other year because of the way the laws work. They have to be brought up in a certain year, last a year, then they have to be voted on the following year. So they, gave me a big, it's like a several year process. But basically I reached out to the state level first, and then the senator referred me back to my local representative for my county.
Rosemary, that's when it would go to the step that you're at, right, where it passed the General Assembly in New Jersey.
Right. I went directly to my assembly person because she had an office in the town that I worked in. So I was familiar with who she was and where she was located. And it was a very nice conversation, our initial conversation. And like I said earlier, like everybody says when I say dog groomers aren't licensed, they almost stop in their tracks, because almost everybody has a dog, even on the legislative level. They can't believe it. So it's hard to believe that states won't get behind this going forward, as Michael just attested to. It's just getting people from each state to move forward and bring it to their local person, like Michael did, like I did, and give a reason why we need dog groomers to be licensed. And Gunner and Bijou is perfect examples. I mean, you don't really, unfortunately, have to look too far to find why we need licensed dog groomers.
Yeah.
Michael's site, Michael has an amazing site on justice for our fur babies, where he has all different stories of all the dog deaths. He has story after story that people have contacted him about. So he's got a very comprehensive website. I'm concentrating mostly on legislation. Michael has a little bit broader range because he's bringing it out to the masses. So
okay.
That's kind of like where we differ, because I'm sticking strictly to legislation. Michael's kind of corralling everybody in.
Okay, perfect. Nice. And Michael, you don't really strike me as like the superhero type, right? I mean, you look like
you're so calm. And
you look like one of my friends I can have a beer with. You don't seem
well,
like.
I mean, before this, I mean, I might have got on Facebook once every couple of weeks. And I mean, when I created the group, it kind of, like I said, it just blew up so quickly because so many people were having incidents. And like I said, when I made my post, within a week, I think I had like 7,000 or 8,000 requests to connect on Messenger, where folks were talking about the experiences that they had had. And I mean, I've seen some comments on here from the groomers, and I mean, we know not all groomers are bad. Some of them love their job. I even have some in my group that I'm friends with now who have left the groomers that they were with because they saw things that they didn't like. They saw the things of being forced to groom 20 dogs in a day without a break, and they didn't like it. So hopefully putting regulations in place will give them a means to report this stuff. Right. So that they have an outlet to say, okay, they're making me groom 20 dogs in a day and it's not right, because it's not. And I mean, they've quit their jobs and gone to other companies because they were being made to do this. And I mean, so, and I have friends that are groomers. I mean, I have a good friend that is a mobile pet groomer. She, has a mobile unit that she does. And like I said, not all groomers are bad. The few weeds make it bad for everybody.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
If you're unwilling to take a written exam and a practical exam and have your information on public file with the state board, and if you're not willing to fill out an incident report when the incidents happen, if you're not willing to do these things, I don't think that the marketplace, if you told a paying customer, I don't really want to be licensed. I don't want to have to prove myself on a written test, and I don't feel like I should have to prove myself in front of anybody else in a practical exam. And I don't feel like I should be required to keep any pet incident records. So when would you like to pick your dog up? They'll say, I'm going to take my dog somewhere else, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. What do you think about this?
Okay, many wish they understood it a bit more so they can better diagnose and understand rather than just assume the groomer has razor burn. No, may have result of matting. No, may have been a result of matting.
I think she's talking about the vets.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Every vet that I've spoken to has never really disrespected me. If anything, it was usually like the receptionist. But the vet themselves, they were usually always respectful.
No, but the thing is because you're educated. We have people.
When I go as a learner, I go asking them, "Can you help me?"
Well, people tell us, like the groomers and the vets, we have bad history. They don't like us, this and that. But we actually get along with vets, and vets actually refer other people to us. And so,
because I'll call the vet and I'll say, "Hey, listen, I'm working on this dog. Let's just say Buddy, and Buddy has these skin issues. I know that you've been working with it and prescribing these, prescriptions for him, antibiotics. As a groomer, what can I do to help?" Mm-hmm. And the vet is more than willing to talk to you.
Or you can even, in the conversation, you can also, say something that the vet didn't even know, Right. If you have this education on the skin and coat, and the vet, because they study so little, because they have to study a broad range of animals. So, skin and coat, I really think that we should be able to work with the vets and not work against each other.
Exactly.
Okay, so anyways, moving on. Connie wants to know, so June, you're saying because someone is a felon, they shouldn't be able to groom dogs?
Now, so I guess technically what would be am I a convicted felon because I got a DUI when I was 19?
Okay, how about we ask Rosemary, what is your definition of?
So if somebody is a felon, does that automatically disqualify them?
No, we're looking for people who have abused animals. That's what that's about. We're not,
Okay.
We're not looking, again, we're not looking to not have groomers take the test and pass the test. We're not looking for reasons to rule you out, but we will rule you out if you have a history of doing bad things.
And how recent would that have to be?
Yeah. Now, my one DUI was when I was 19, right? I was young and I was dumb.
Well, we know a groomer where an incident happened a long time ago, but it's still on her record. So, but she's not an abusive person at all.
Yeah.
No,
so yeah, I mean,
not
I think that there's gonna be some level of common sense, like, if somebody made a mistake and got put in jail for something and they paid their dues, they came out and they're a good citizen. I mean, I don't think, like Rosemary said, I don't think they're looking for reasons to exclude you.
We're not looking to reason to exclude. We're looking to a reason to exclude you if you have a violent temper. That would be a good reason, but not if you had a DUI in 1985.
Yeah.
Right. So Andrea Ward, a large part of the issue is that pets are seen as property and not family members per the law.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, if I may, June.
Yeah.
I am working on another bill called the Sentient Being Act. Sentient. S-E-N-T-I-E-N-T. Sentient Being Act. I am looking, and some countries already have this enacted, and I'm looking to do it here in New Jersey. Sentient being would raise the pet to a living thing and not property.
Can you mute us?
Yeah, he's gonna take notes.
Okay, it's okay. It's called Sentient. S-E-N-T-I-E-N-T. Sentient Being Act. And this will hopefully happen within the next couple of years here in New Jersey, which will raise a pet from something to own to a living being.
Okay, now you can ask.
So, Rosemary, what does that mean? A living being? Does that mean a dog would now a pet dog would have rights, limited rights?
Well, it would mean that they weren't property. So it would kind of change the playing field as to what a dog is. We often hear, a dog is man's best friend. Things like this. I mean, they have dogs that work with the police.
Exactly.
Okay, so this isn't property. Dogs aren't property. So one of my next bills will be to introduce the Sentient Being Act in New Jersey, where dogs are no longer considered property but are living beings.
That says, that says police officers for this. But so it would be like a child. So like just like a child, my daughters, they're not allowed to own property or buy a car or vote. But if somebody harmed my child, then they wouldn't be looked at like a piece of property.
Right.
Yeah. I like this, the Sentient Being Act.
Right. And if anybody can Google it, I mean, it's not new. I didn't make it up. It's all out there. Like I said, the Sentient Being Act, there's several countries that have it already. I don't know if there's any states yet, but it's out there and it's making its way across continents. But I'm looking to get it in here to New Jersey as one of my next bills.
So
Okay. So Kim Halligan wants to know, will the board pay for
necropsy should the situation sadly occur? So I guess when in an event that a dog dies and the shop fills out an incident report, does the board pay for necropsy to be done?
No, the owner would pay for necropsy.
Okay. And then would the board consider the necropsy report in the investigation?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay. So another person asked, I can't pronounce that. I'm all for this, but what happens to the dogs that never return to the groomer because they ended up on the report so many times, flagged as do not groom?
That would have to be handled on an individual basis. You know, we haven't gotten that far. We're just trying to get them licensed right now, and then we can deal with other things as they come up.
So then one of the issues I think that would have to come up is have some kind of a database where all the groomers, and I mean, like it has to be a huge database where all the pet owners and pet names are stored.
Well, no, it would just be like the incident reports that are filed at the state board annually. So they would have those records. They would have those files, those reports. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So Elizabeth wants to know, so is there going to be a database that will be easily accessible, or will it take that pet being injured for us to find out that there is a paper trail on them?
Well, right now it's just starting, so I'm starting from the bottom, so I have nothing yet. So until groomers are licensed and incident reports are filled out, then we see where that goes. But I don't have anything right now to answer that question.
Once we start to collect the data, then we'll have something to go on. Yeah.
Then maybe we can do another one of these live events so that we can collect data from a group of groomers and pet owners and come up with something that everybody agrees on.
And I like what Rosemary is saying is that we're just starting. We're trying to get this license in place, right? And I think it's important to note that's why the founding fathers were smart enough to just go ahead and put the Constitution through and add amendments later.
Right. That's right. I mean, this will be the first of its kind in the country. Like I said, Connecticut has something, but not as integral as Bijou's law. But if we can get this passed in several states, we are hopeful that we can get it passed in the whole country. And like I was telling June, at one point we've heard, I don't know about you, Michael, and you could clock in on this because you will probably have an answer on this as well. I've heard from Canada and I've heard from as far away as Scotland.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure Michael has heard even more, being his huge following. I'm sure he's heard from all over the world.
And I've had some from China. I've had some from Canada. I've had some that I have to translate what they send me. I mean, because it's spread that far. Yeah. As far as trying to spread the awareness to people.
This seems to be a worldwide issue. I mean, someone commented on my Facebook post that in UK, this is a big problem, that groomers just pop up out of nowhere overnight with no training.
Well, let me just, because anybody who's listening, and if they're in earshot, and again, if they are interested in their state, their country, their province, you can go to bijousbill.com, go to the bottom of the first page. The bill is right there for you to have. I've made it accessible for everyone so that they can take this and run with it just like Michael has. And, you know, I started it. Michael took that ball and is rolling with it. California is interested. Assemblyman Evan Lowe has it on his desk. I've heard from Nevada, Missouri, and Kentucky who also want it. But it's got to come across by people who get on it, get on the website, download the bill, take it to their local assembly people or local legislators and say, listen, we want to introduce this bill in our state. What do I have to do? I can't do it. It needs to be a constituent from each state. This is not a federal bill. This is a state bill. So somebody from each state would have to take that and initially go and put it forth.
Perfect. Okay. So now, there's a lot of questions, and somebody's asking like why questions are being ignored. Again, it's because we don't have a lot of time here, and there's a lot of, so we're trying to get to the ones that are most relevant in clarifying
About the bill.
the bill, because this is something new. And somebody was saying that it needs to be perfected. Again,
We're taking baby steps.
exactly. And that the Constitution was not perfect. That's why they added amendments. But if they never signed the Declaration of Independence and went ahead, what if they hesitated? What if the founding fathers said, you know what, we can't present this to the king, he's gonna think we're a joke. I mean, and what if they just kept stalling, like, no, it's not perfect enough, it's not aggressive enough, it's not bold enough, it's not the right words, and they kept stalling, we would have never had a 4th of July. So my point is, because so far what we presented, nobody can really disagree with, right? I mean, can anybody really disagree with any of the facts that we presented from the bill? Let's get the bill in place, and then as we need to make changes,
we make changes as we go.
And the changes, whenever board members need to decide on anything, it's a 5-4 vote. So the majority is the pet groomers. I mean, if they have to make some changes to the bill or make some additions, they only need one vet or one general public member or even the executive branch member to get on board with them.
Okay, Sheena wants to know, so certified groomers would need to retest a practical?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a master groomer?
If you're not licensed, which you're not, you would take a written and practical test. It would just be much easier for those who have a lot of experience.
So I want to put this out there because a lot of these comments have been coming in. It does not matter how many certificates you have, what kind of certificates you have, who gave you those certificates. Bottom line is, take the test, take the practical test. If you can pass it,
you're licensed.
You're licensed.
I mean,
those certificates, I'd rather go to a licensed hairstylist instead of a certified hairstylist.
Of course. And you like to go to a licensed doctor, not somebody who just likes to treat patients.
Exactly. So Laura wants to know, no brick and mortar shop. I don't want my address all over the place.
Oh, well, Laura is a house call groomer like I am. Laura is actually the author of House Call Grooming. I think it's called House Call Grooming. But she wrote a book about house call grooming. She is asking,
will addresses, phone numbers be public? What about groomers who have no brick and mortar shop? I don't want my address all over the place.
No, it's not going to be made public. You're going to be given a license. The state's going to have that information, not public.
So, just some random pet owner can't go on the state website and look up Laura Hearn's address because she's licensed.
No.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. We would never give that information out.
Perfect. So Laura, you can sleep sleep in peace at night. Sleep well.
Kelsey Ann wants to know, us groomers have to ask and notate every single thing for every single client. Keep a journal of weight and health, etc., etc. Protect yourself and the pet in your care by attempting to educate owners.
Exactly.
It's a big job, but that's what we do.
I mean, and the thing is, it's so rewarding when something as small as letting the pet owner know that the dog's tooth kind of bent in as I was checking the teeth and trying to brush it, and it looks like it's really loose. You might want to take him to the vet. They take him to the vet that day. They send you a text to let you know that they took an x-ray, and had they not caught that infection that went up into the root, into the mouth, it could have spread into their bloodstream and the dog could have died.
Right.
It's so
but
so rewarding.
Groomers have to be educated to know.
Exactly. And to be thorough enough to check the teeth.
Exactly. Yes.
K. Anthony, addresses will be public. A number of the rules in the proposed bill match the standards for hairstylists. He's saying addresses will be public.
Addresses will not be public. You'll get a state license that you would put in a place where it can be seen, just like your nail tech and your beauty tech. But we're not in the business of giving out names and addresses. That's not what this is about.
Okay.
Daria says, master grooming is very difficult to get to. You need to take 5 tests and 5 practicals and show cuts on perfect breeds and full coat, not a mix.
Well, then it should be a breeze.
Right.
I mean,
I understand. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter how many certificates you have. The more, the better. If that's your type of personality.
well, look at it this way.
So-
Look at it this way. Right now, New Jersey does not have any licensing. So once it comes into effect, it'll now. So think of it as a doctor from a different state, licensed in a different state, moving to another state now, or a lawyer. Now he has to be licensed in that state and take the exam again to get licensed in that state. He can't say, do you know how many states I'm already licensed in? Do you know who you're talking to? Do you have any idea who I am? You know, like, this is an arrogant attitude.
That's a very good example. Sorry.
No. Josh Morales has a really good question for you, Rosemary. He wants to know, what about the bathers that don't want to groom? Is this license required just for groomer or pet care service provider?
Okay, the groomers obviously will be licensed, and there's something called a registered student. If you are handling a dog, and it's covered in the bill, if you are a bather, a brusher, I'll read it to you right from the bill. A registered student means any person who is engaged in learning and acquiring a knowledge of the practice of pet grooming under the direction and supervision of a person duly authorized under this act to teach pet grooming and who is enrolled in a program of instruction at a licensed school of pet grooming. So basically, if you're an apprentice, you can't be licensed because you're still learning.
Right.
And then you're either a registered student, or you're a pet groomer who's getting licensed.
Okay, I think that's clear.
Not touching pets, one of the two, or you're not touching pets at all.
And the shop owner can be one of the people that don't touch the pets at all and just have a business license.
Correct.
I get what you're saying. It's clear.
So Daria wants to know, is this test similar to the AKC safety groomer test?
The test hasn't been put out yet, so I haven't read it. But it will be put forth by groomers.
Not vets, but with
not vets. This will be.
There's a lot of conflict, so we want to make that clear.
Well, the vets will have. It's gonna be with some vet input, obviously, because if you're gonna make study material, you want some vets input.
Right, but the test is coming from groomers.
Okay, that's even better. Yeah. I was actually a little intimidated. I was like, man, I better show vets. I know a little something.
The test will be put forth by groomers.
Okay,
so Kim, if we are the ones needing education to be safe, why would we allow the owner to give consent to use the thing you say is dangerous?
Okay, about the drying. Okay.
Yeah, they shouldn't. That's why I'm outlawing them. Exactly. They shouldn't be using them. Only people who know about them and who are requesting them should use them.
Okay. And I guess, just from a grooming insider point of view, that would be applicable to show dogs, beagles, poodle, and show handlers, show groomers who understand how to use these drying cages safely. And in those particular cases, you do need to use heat to fluff out a Bichon or poodle top knot properly for a show, for a competition. So I think that they put that in the bill to allow for those special cases.
The holistic dog groomer wants to know, what do you mean by a practical exam? How well you groom the pet or how you handle them?
Mm-hmm. A practical exam means actually working on a live animal. So what we want to see, or what the board wants to see, is, can you groom?
So are you looking at the ability to use the tools or the ability to keep the dog calm and handle them safely?
Both.
So you're looking, what you want to see is confidence, competence. Somebody who is knowledgeable and able to demonstrate that they are knowledgeable.
Right. Like you could take a written test that you can drive a car, but can you drive a car? I don't know that till I drive a car.
Exactly.
Okay, so to everyone out there that's been asking questions about color, style, that doesn't matter.
No.
The practical test does not care about that. It's just, can you get the dog groomed safely without hurting the dog? Yes or no?
Right. Can you use the tools? Does the dog come out groomed and groomed well?
Okay.
And you use those tools, and the dog is safe and unharmed.
Now, I mean, it may actually take me a couple of tries because I do sometimes fumble around. I mean, you know, people see it on my YouTube live streams. Anyways.
Again, we're not looking to not license groomers. We just want to make sure that you can do what you say you can do.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, you know, and I only have to pass the test once, right? Well, once every 2 years.
Well, just once. Once you renew like CEUs. You don't go take the test again.
Okay, as long as you're doing going to workshops.
So then if we go to, for example, like Atlanta Pet Fair, like a pet conference that comes, and we pay to take those classes, would that be considered as our continued education?
Yes. As long as you're up on the latest and current, yeah, that would be a CEU.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
CEU, I like that.
Okay, so Connie wants to know, what about cage-free shops that cater to animals with kennel issues?
Oh, good question.
What's the question, though?
Cage-free shops, because one of the, I guess it was saying that the dogs that are not being groomed need to be in a cage that is clean and structurally sound.
That's if they use cages. If they don't use cages, then they don't use cages. That's fine. It's not mandatory to use a cage. It's just if you do use cages, these are the mandates for using a cage.
I like that. Okay, so I think what's happening is people are reading too far into it.
Yeah.
It is exactly what it just says. It's just if you use a cage, because there was a mobile groomer who actually was pretty vocal about this. She was saying that this is going to put her out of business because she doesn't use cages because she's a mobile groomer.
Well, this question came in and says, would this eliminate cage-free facilities?
No, so you're saying if you don't use cages, then there's no need to.
And same goes for mobile grooming, because Laura's asking, and what about mobile grooming? So same goes for that too.
Well, let's let Rosemary answer.
Okay.
Yes, if you're a mobile groomer and you're bringing dogs in and you have multiple dogs, then however you normally handle it, that's how you normally handle it. We're talking more about big businesses that have caged dogs. These are the rules and regulations if you're using a cage. If you're not using cages, then you're not using cages. You don't have to use a cage.
I like that. So what you're saying is if you use cages, all you're asking is that the pets be caged separately unless they're from the same family and they have enough space in the cages to move around comfortably, and that they be clean and structurally sound. And if you don't use cages, that doesn't apply.
Right. Then you're cageless.
Too simple.
Yeah. It's okay. Right.
I love simple, by the way, because I'm a very simple man.
I tried to make this as simple as possible and as straightforward as possible so that people aren't afraid.
Exactly. I actually, you know what? I'm kind of saddened that you said that, because I actually, when I read through it, I was like, I'm usually a very simple man and things are usually very complicated to me when I read it. And this is making a lot of sense to me. I was like, maybe I'm becoming more intelligent, but actually you just wrote it for a simple man like me to understand.
Well, I tried to make the bill as simple and as straightforward as possible within the lines of grooming. What does that mean? If you're a groomer, this is what it means. You can pass a test, practical and written, and these are just some preliminaries that we set up so that we have some kind of standard to go by.
So, a good question. These questions are coming in. Kim wants to know,
what is the exam like?
What is this exam like? But again,
Rosemary is saying she doesn't know yet because they haven't made the test yet.
So about safety and cleanliness or grooming technicality, I think it's everything, right?
Right. We want to see that you can groom a dog, and then these other standards. Correct. And then these standards are put in place to go a little bit further than just can you groom a dog. And if you do groom a dog, these are some of the things that we would like to see put in place so that you can groom them and the dogs are safe and sound while other dogs are being groomed.
Yeah.
So, Kelsey Ann says the haircut is art and subjective to personal styling. The handling, sanitation, safety is what they want regulated.
Correct.
So that's the thing. I would never want anybody to tell an artist how to do their art, but you do want some basic foundations in place where every dog groomer is following certain protocols so that their tools are sanitized and clean before they start grooming a dog. They're not causing cross-contamination. Their cages are clean and structurally sound, so there's no injuries, or the dog doesn't go home with lice or something. You know, so these are the things that we need in place.
Correct.
Okay, so a couple of people are saying that they have been to school. So my thing is, if you have been to school, like Rosemary said, you
Take
should
the
have no
test.
problem. I don't think what Rosemary is trying to say is this law is going to pass. You have to go back to school, start from square one. That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is take that knowledge that you have, pass this test, and be on your way.
Correct.
Simple. Okay, so
so I'll just address it real quick. Okay, so the reason Bijou died in the necropsy report, and who's to blame?
The reason why that we're not bringing
the reason why I'm not talking about that is because it's going to take time away and distract from the conversation. The real conversation is that she never had a licensed groomer to even take her dog to in the first place. That's the conversation we're trying to have. And now how can we fix the situation? The fact that there are no licensed groomers, that there is no regulation to this $5.4 billion industry that's growing every year.
Okay, Wizard 100 says school is no replacement for experience, though. I feel like a slave to the corporation I work for. Groomers are underpaid and rely on tips to survive. Only reason I stay is insurance.
See,
it's a career,
not
a job.
This is why something can change, something like getting licensed and becoming a professional and actually raising your own self-image and your own self-value, right? And you become more valuable to the marketplace. You actually start to earn a comfortable living and you don't feel like a slave.
When honestly, with the schools, I think you just have to do your research, because with cosmetology, they say 1 year, you know, and like how many like dog grooming schools are like 6 months or something.
The thing is, my clients,
not enough time.
Just the other day, the client, I didn't do it just the other day, but the client I saw just the other day, it was a few months ago, but when she handed me a check for $400, you know, I was like, you know how much we charge, right? And then she gave me this funny look, you know, and I was like, what I meant to say was, thank you. Thank you so much. I took it, you know, I took it. So the thing is, you know, and I told this one client, the total today is $110. She paid $300. And I even was like, thinking to myself, I was asking my wife, should I ask them, like, is this okay? Did you make a mistake? I even went back to a house one time. There's another occasion. I texted her after I saw the check. I texted her. I said, there must be a mistake. You paid too much. And they said no. So here's the thing. Okay, I'm not gonna preach. Okay, let's go.
Trudy, skipping over. Trudy O'Brien says, my groomer is fantastic. If she needs to raise her price because of the cost of licensing, I would be more than happy to pay more.
Exactly.
I think a lot of good could come from this. There is a lot of ironing out of details, but hopefully the groomers on the board will handle those things.
Right. That's exactly right. People, and the groomer, based on their style and their ability to groom, people will know who's grooming their dogs better, and just like you do with a beautician, who cuts your hair the way you like it to be cut. Well, they've all gone to school. They can all cut hair. Well, maybe you just go to the one that you like, the way that they cut your hair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so here's I'm just gonna finish that thought I was going towards. when you show up, when you actually show up, right, wholeheartedly with the intention to do the best you possibly can to serve your client, right? And solve the problem that they asked you to solve for them, right? You go the extra mile. Honest, hard work touches the heart of the receiver. When the person who receives honest, hard work, it moves them. It touches them. It's art. It's no longer just work. It's art. Because you made yourself vulnerable. You did something that expressed yourself. And that's when people start to value you as an artist, you know, as somebody more valuable than just a dog groomer, you know. Okay, let's go.
Kim Halligan. So what about franchise owners who are not groomers? Would they be required as well? And I think we answered a similar question earlier, Rosemary.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no, right?
They don't have to, yeah.
Only a business license.
Correct.
But if they are not licensed pet groomers, even if they own the business, they are not to engage in any grooming activity.
Correct.
Okay, it's doggy time, says Rosemary. I am a huge follower of this cause, but just want to make sure people understand no one is saying all groomers are bad, and we do give praise to those who are heart deep into the care they give.
Yes.
Right, and this will absolutely make them be even more recognized because they'll be able to shine, and people will know that they're doing the job that they've been asked to do and do it well. Hence the money coming in.
Okay, Patty Rogers. I am hoping this bill gets passed here in Upper Michigan as well.
And Patty, you might want to go ahead and get in touch with Michael and follow his page as well. What was that again? It was
Michael.
It was Justice for Our Fur Babies. And maybe get in touch with Michael if you need any advice on how he got North Carolina on the ball and getting this going through in their legislature. So, Michael, how can Patty Rogers contact you if anybody wanted to contact you for help in getting this going in their state? Is he?
There you go.
Okay, we can't hear you, Michael.
Can you hear me now? I had to unmute it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, she can either find the Facebook group, which is Justice for Gunner and Other Fur Babies. And we also have the website, which is justice4ourfurbabies.com. There's a contact form on there that will send me an email. When they use that form, it'll send an email to my personal account, whatever they type in the contact form.
Or they can go to bijousbill.com, go to the bottom of the first page, print out the actual bill, and bring it to their legislator.
Aha. So, Patty Rogers, if you're listening, you can print out the bill on bijousbill.com. Go to the bottom of the page, print out the bill, and take it to your state county. You can even go to the county representative, like Michael did.
Right. Each state has different. Michael's state was different than mine, but I went right to my assembly person. But it's out there for everybody in every state, in every country, to go ahead, read the bill, download the bill, print it out, bring it to your local legislator, and have them put it up for a vote.
Perfect.
Okay, so Kim Halligan has a couple of things that I want to, she typed a couple of things that I want to bring up here. She's saying, for an example, Aussie pet mobile owners are often non-groomers. That makes no sense. They're the boss. Technically, PetSmart CEO should be a licensed groomer according to this.
No, because the PetSmart CEO wouldn't be engaging in grooming activity.
Right.
And here's the thing. What is it? So one of our clients, they owned an urgent care medical facility, right? And so, and I only knew that because her voicemail greeting was like, you know, hello, you reached so-and-so at urgent care. So I thought they were doctors. I just assumed because they owned an urgent care facility, you know, and they sold it. And come to find out, they're not doctors. I kind of mentioned, I was like, well, you're a doctor, right? And she was like, no, we just owned it. We had doctors working for us. So it would be the same idea.
Same would apply. You'd have a business license for those who are not grooming, and you'd have a grooming license for those that are.
Okay, so Sheena wants to know, what about Groom Team USA? So she wants to know, do they have to pay to take a test in each state?
Because they would be competing.
Because they travel and compete.
Right. That sort of when you're competing like that, we're talking about the local person who brings their dog to the groomer. We're not talking about these competitive situations. We're talking about the local Joe who wants to get his pet groomed.
Okay.
From what I understood, it was anytime you're receiving financial compensation for grooming services and in exchange for grooming services. So
Correct.
in a grooming competition, that wouldn't be the case. It wouldn't be a
No.
client paying that groomer to
No,
groom their
not at
dog
all.
for them. It would be them competing, and so it's
Correct.
not the same.
That's not the same.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good question. So are the state exams going to be different?
From state to state, I imagine so. Rosemary?
Yeah. Yes, because each state will put together their own. You know, we might come up with a great exam that can be adopted by each state. But being that we're just getting off the ground, let us get this one into place, and see. Like I said, it should be a standard procedure. It should be whether you groom in New Jersey or California or anywhere in between. It shouldn't change. You're still grooming a pet, and these things should apply. It should be basic 101 grooming.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. This is a good question. Andrea says, so what if I'm a licensed groomer for Florida? I go to visit my best friend in Colorado. Would I be able to help her out grooming while on vacay?
Well, just if you're being paid to do that. We're talking about paid licensed groomers. So if she's a licensed groomer in Florida for which she's collecting, or wherever, and she's collecting money, and she goes to Colorado to help her friend, she can help, but the friend would be the one who's licensed to groom the pet.
Or, I mean, if she's just going to help her friend out to help her groom her dog without getting any kind of pay, then
Right.
it wouldn't fall under this bill.
Right. Right. We're just trying, again, we're getting very technical, which is fine. But what we're trying to do is set up some basics, some 101s in getting your dog groomer licensed.
But if she were to move to Colorado and set up shop, now, yes, you do have to get licensed in Colorado.
Correct. You'd have to have a Colorado state dog groomer's license, just like you would if you were a lawyer and you were a lawyer in New York and you went to visit your friend in Colorado. You could help that lawyer, but you wouldn't be able to
represent them.
Right.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Yes. So if you're a licensed lawyer in Colorado or Florida and you go visit your friend in Colorado, they're having a legal problem. You can give them advice, but you can't represent them.
Correct.
I like that.
Okay, it's doggy time. Rosemary, is there anything in the bill or that can be done about fellow employees turning a blind eye, staying quiet? I have seen many admit to saying nothing.
Ooh. Right. Couldn't the toll-free number that for consumers to call in for complaints, couldn't that apply to that as well? Shop workers?
If you have an issue, you're seeing an issue, we're not encouraging you to turn a blind eye. We're asking you to call that 800 number and report an incident so that we can follow up on that.
Because, yeah, I mean, I've been in those situations where it's like I've seen dogs being mishandled, but then I don't say anything because, you know, I don't want to cause trouble and, you know, things like that. And, you know, and I come home and I'm just a wreck. And I tell my wife, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I think I need to quit. You know, I don't think I can do this, you know, and it's like, but yeah, so now with this, when this bill goes in place, now we have a toll-free number where I could have called and say, hey, listen, this is some of the things I'm seeing at work.
Right. And we would encourage you to report that and any kind of evidence that you have to report that. We need to know that.
I like that.
Just like in any other kind of litigative situation. If you see something, say something, please. If there's something that you can get on tape. What I'm also, another bill, the third bill that I'm looking to put forth is to have all grooming be surveillanced. So that wouldn't happen because everything would be on a camera all the time. Those are my two bills. One is the Pet Grooming Licensing Act, otherwise known as Bijou's bill or Bijou's law. The second is Sentient being, where dogs are no longer considered property. And the third is the Surveillance Act, whereby somebody who takes a dog in for a groom can see what's going on their phone. So everything is transparent.
You know, Rosemary, there's a lot of groomers on board already. I know Christine Pearson grooms all of her dogs. You know, she live streams all of her dogs all throughout the day.
There you go. Live stream, surveillance, whatever you want to call it. But again, I need to get Bijou's bill underway so that I can go ahead and pass these other bills.
Yeah.
So Blue Flame wants to know, what about the matted dogs, elderly dogs, and dogs with challenging behaviors? Who will groom them if groomers turn them away due to trying to avoid an incident?
Again, that would be considered on a case-to-case basis. Right now, we're just looking to license pets, licensed pet groomers. As far as these matting, these other situations, because I hear it all the time, the bill hasn't gotten, that's not what this bill is addressing. This bill is addressing licensing dog groomers.
You know what? I just realized the time. Michael, is it still okay? Do we have to let you go? Because I know that we originally only were planning on staying on for about an hour.
Oh my God, look at the time.
Yeah, Michael, do you need to go? I really, I don't want to disrespect your time.
Yeah, I'll probably log off. I'm on call this week, so I have to make a check. I have to log in and check some things for work. But I mean, Rosemary has all my contact information if anybody has any questions.
But Michael, before you go, do you want to talk about your petition that you have out there that's being circulated? That petition is pretty powerful. If you want to just speak to that for a minute.
I mean, I guess we could. I mean, we do have a petition on our website that's asking for the CEO of a major corporation and to step down from his position due to all the injuries that have occurred. And there's also, in that same petition, we're asking them to voluntarily close those grooming salons until we can put regulations into place. And I mean, it's just because if you go to the website, you'll see, I mean, just the enormous amount of injuries that have occurred. And I know that, you know, some of the groomers are good and some of them do excellent work and love what they do. I mean, some of the ones that I know, you know, still work for big corporations and they love what they do. And like you said, they've seen things they don't like. But I mean, what are they going to do? They got bills to pay. So I mean, what are they going to do? It's kind of hard for them to do something. So we're just, you know, the link is on the website. They can go and read it and judge for themselves whether or not they want to sign it.
But what Michael's asking in good faith. What Michael is asking is that in good faith, that these groomers, these large big box chain stores close their or at least temporarily close down their grooming salons until the regulation and licensing is put in place.
I think that's, I mean,
keep in mind, we're not talking about the small person like you that goes, we're talking about the billion-dollar a year companies that are
doing those 12
billions
dogs.
of dollars off of it.
Who's doing those 12 dogs in an 8-hour shift with no break? That's what he's talking about.
And I like how Michael is saying he's just putting the information out there, and you can go to his page, Justice for Gunner and Justice for Our Fur Babies, and you can read the petition and sign it if you like. If you know, I don't think anybody's trying to say that we're right and everybody else is wrong. I don't think Michael's trying to say that dog groomers are wrong, but what he's saying is this situation cannot be ignored any longer. But yeah, and I just want to thank you so much, Michael, because I know you got to go, and thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate.
I appreciate you having me on your show, and y'all have a good evening.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, so he's gonna go ahead and log off. So I just want to like say thank you to Rosemary as well. I mean, holy cow, it's already after 9. But
oh wait, there's another couple questions.
Okay, Rosemary, do you have a little more time?
I have time.
Okay.
So Laura Hearn wants to know if you see an incident, do you even accept the dog at all, or just flat out refuse?
That would be again, that would be up to that person to make that decision, not me.
Yeah, and you can say no. I mean, I found it hard to learn that as well, but we're allowed to say no.
You're allowed to say no.
Okay, and Kim wants to know, I also think the Craigslist/backyard groomers will continue, but
I don't think so, because you can't, it would be illegal to accept financial compensation in exchange for grooming services.
Correct.
So that means that you wouldn't be able to advertise on Craigslist because people would find out and they could report you.
Correct.
So you wouldn't be able to do it out in the open. You would have to go underground. And I just don't see a lot of criminals going through the trouble of doing underground grooming. You know, there's just not, I just have a hard time picturing a mob boss rushing in the middle of the night into a dark shop with the toy poodle, fix the top knot. You know, Vinny told you, you don't want to upset Vinny. You know, like, I just don't see that happening. So I don't see a lot of money being made in underground grooming. So unless they were uber passionate and just nothing could stop them, not even licensing, and they're just going to groom dogs underground, and just they were unfairly excluded from being licensed. That's a truly inspirational story to me.
But eventually they will be found out. I mean, it would eventually come to the surface because the state will know who's grooming and if they have a license or not.
Yeah, exactly. And advertising on Craigslist or making a public Facebook page would not be a great idea.
Right. Especially if it's a state law that you have to be licensed and you're grooming and you're not. It's just like if you're driving and you drive, you get caught without a license.
Exactly. You're taking the chance. You're taking the risk.
Taking a chance. And if you get caught, well, there's going to be penalties to pay.
Exactly.
Andrea wants to know, who are the 4 groomers on the board?
They haven't been selected yet. We don't even have the license, the bill enacted yet. So those people haven't been appointed yet.
For Daria wants to know, for practical, will dogs be provided or
Yes.
owner's dogs, shelter dogs, model dogs? So the hardest.
More than likely, there'll be shelter dogs.
Shelter dogs.
Okay, I like that idea.
Yeah. We'd like to try to get, work with the shelters, get them groomed, and get them adopted. So we would be doing both.
Okay, so it's Doggy Time wants to know, in this bill, is there anything about these groomers notifying owners immediately of any injuries, issues that are interfering with the groom versus not saying anything at all?
That would be the incident report, right?
Right. Well, I would hope that they would be doing this anyway.
Right, immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, sometimes I think the fear is, but I need to make this money, but I need to make this $60. If I call the owner about this injury and they take the dog and I don't do the groom, but what about the $60? So I'm just going to go ahead and get the groom done and then tell them about the injury after I get paid. And it's like, if you would just forget about the $60 and do what's best for your client, they will take you by the hand and open. Okay, I'll stop.
That's right. Again, that license would make you be able to go out and do your own thing and work for people who you want to work for, if not yourself. Not because you have to. Because I know a lot of these big box places pay their groomers minimum wage. That's exactly what we're trying to discourage. We're trying to get good groomers out there to go out there, make a name for themselves, set up shop, and hopefully have a country full of good groomers that are getting paid what they're worth.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think Andrea says, what if a groomer notices an ear with a lot of discharge, hair buildup, and smell and refers to the vet? The vet says it's fine, leave it. What should we do? Knowing that the ear is not in its best condition, what should we do?
Again, that's not up for me to tell them what to do. I'm working on licensing.
If it was me and this bill was in place, I would file an incident report and I would put in there that this is what I saw. A lot of discharge, hair buildup, and smell. And I refer them to this vet. And the vet said, leave it, it's fine. And I had the conversation with the vet on this day at this time. That's what I would do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So someone wrote, the vet is in the wrong. Okay, so anyways, moving forward. What about dog walkers, sitters, trainers? I think that's a different subject. Right now, we're just talking about grooming, correct?
And again, I'm not out to change the world, and neither is Rosemary. We're just trying to help the dog grooming industry be better than we found it.
Correct.
Well, the way she found it and the way I found it.
Alan wants to know, is Rosemary a dog groomer? No, she is not. No. And some people assume that Rosemary is a dog sitter. She is not.
I am not a dog sitter.
I did some research on Rosemary, and now I sent a request to be linked on LinkedIn. But anyways, she's a interior design consultant. And
correct.
So I don't know where the rumor circulated that she's a pet sitter.
I might be able to answer that question. After Bijou's bill came to light, a couple of people asked me if I would do pet sitting for them. So I have about 2 clients for which I mind their pet when they go on vacation. So that's where that came in. But I do not make my living from those 2 pet sits that I get in a year. I make my living from being a skilled interior designer.
Perfect.
Okay, Chris Anthony says, I think it'd be a great idea to include pet sitters in this. We leave our babies with them for days at a time. They need done safety regulations and pet first aid too.
I can't include pet sitters on this. Is already this bill is jam packed. By putting the heating element in was generous. I can't make this a bill about licensing everybody. I can only do one thing at a time.
Exactly. And Chris Anthony, let's get dog grooming as a licensed profession first, and then provide a template for other industries like dog trainers and dog sitters, you know?
Well, a lot of people are saying that the vets need to be held accountable too. And I think once we get in the process, once we get used to how the database needs to be filled, I guess, then we can maybe create a database where the vets and the groomers can share the same information.
Yeah, and we don't even know what's going to be on those incident reports yet. So as the information comes in, you know, that's the beauty of science. You're not looking at the information wanting it to tell you, you know, with the bias, or, you know, wanting to interpret the numbers. You're looking at the information and just looking at what the facts suggest. So we might find out from all these incident reports coming in from all these groomers that there's a lot of vets kind of, you know, brushing, sweeping things under the rug. This might come to light. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying we don't know, you know. Right. So let's put this in place and get it rolling and get these incident reports filed with the state board, and then we'll take a look at the information and see what the evidence suggests.
And if we need to make changes, or who knows if there's a whole new industry born out of this. I mean, there might be some branch that fuses veterinary or and groomers together, where they come up with a whole nother industry where they do both medical and grooming. I mean, who knows what's to come? But at least let us get groomers licensed.
Yeah, yes. Let's get that done first.
So I guess Chris Anthony says, so the bill will be rewritten to restrict how many dogs per day the groomer is allowed to do.
No.
It's not there now.
No, we're not. We can't tell people how to run their business or how many dogs to do. That's not what this is about. We're about licensing dog groomers.
You know, it's weird. I can't understand, because the people who are opposed to this bill, they're usually saying, "Oh, it's not covering enough."
Well,
you know, it's like they don't.
It's because, like for instance, Diane Foster says there are regulations for childcare on how many children one person can oversee. Maybe there should be a limit to how many dogs a groomer can groom a day to prevent the factory line effect.
And that's something
that right, and that very well could come out as an amendment to this.
Exactly.
I can't put any more in this bill than I already have.
Exactly.
Legislation doesn't work like that. It's not like throw everything in there and see what sticks. I mean, this is very, very specific, because that's how a bill works.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, it's like they either want no government interference, or they want the government like all intrusive on every aspect of the, you know, it's like, what do you want? You know, I think this is a perfect balance of not intruding too much and telling people how to run their business, but just putting some regulations in place so that the dogs are safe.
Right. And who knows, when we do find, like what Chris Anthony says, that there's too many dogs being groomed. I mean, there may be a mandate that comes down out of this that says you're only allowed to groom X amount of dogs per hour, per day, I don't know. But right now, this bill is about getting dog groomers licensed.
Exactly.
Okay. Someone wants to know, Lil Bling's Minder wants to know, clauses mean nothing unless your client releases you to receive information. So I guess once this bill passes, then we would have to.
I guess she's saying that if a client comes in, we're not allowed to go and look up for incident files reported on that customer unless they give us consent to do so. Is that what this means?
Right. And yes, this is not so that we can bring everybody out of the woodwork. This is just so that we can get, if there is an incident, that the groomer reports it, so that we have a track as to what's going on.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, and I think this is we're getting lost in the details. Yeah. And here's the main point. The point is, if you're a pet owner and you are concerned and you want to keep your pet safe and you want to drop your pet off to a licensed pet groomer, there is no option for that. That's what we're talking about.
Correct.
So
all of these other things that come out of that, they're all legitimate. I agree with a lot of what everybody's saying, but we're not there yet. We're just simply talking about licensing pet groomers by the state.
So Laura wants to know, would we then have to pay essentially malpractice insurance?
No, it's not about, no, the person who has the shop has liability insurance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It falls under that.
And somebody was asking, I think they were talking about the Sentient Being Act. So living being, they're asking, would that mean as in a human?
No.
Okay.
No, it just means that they're not property.
Okay.
Yeah, because dogs can't ever be humans.
Yeah, they're not.
There's an obvious difference. I mean, humans don't like their butts.
They just won't be recognized as furniture. They'll be recognized as something that's breathing and living.
Perfect. And you know, the thing is, I remember telling my wife, like, I think one day soon, like in our lifetime, like as a race, human beings are gonna just like realize one day, like, holy cow, these animals actually have thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So Lynn wants to know, what would be the end goal for the sentient being legislation? What is the purpose of doing that?
The purpose of doing that is so that right now, what's happening, because dogs are considered property, there is a cap. In other words, Bijou passed away, and I did file suit for which there is a cap. Now, the state told me how much that cap is. The state doesn't know what that dog meant to me. How could the state put a price on what that dog meant to me?
Mm-hmm.
So by raising a dog to a sentient being, well, it opens up a whole nother conversation about what is the worth of this pet to you. Mm-hmm. And that comes into a broader scale, because most people who this happens to, that happened to me, it's just dismissed, or we'll get you another pet. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And that's what the Sentient Being Act is. And you can certainly Google that. I think Australia has it, New Zealand has it, France has it. There's a couple of countries that already have that enacted. So you could feel free to go ahead and read what that is and what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn Paolillo says, what if the owner doesn't want a necropsy? It still gets dinged against the groomer. What?
It's saying because Groomers by Nicole saying, if the owner doesn't provide a public.
Okay, they're getting way off topic. Yeah. I mean, we're not. It's not about necropsy. It's not about who's at fault. I'm talking about licensing groomers so that you get a professional groomer.
Exactly. and that's the thing is, again, it's about if I took my daughter to get her haircut, and I had, just being a normal parent, I just assume all hairstylists are licensed, and something happens, and I find out that this hairstylist maybe accidentally hurt my daughter because they weren't properly educated and they're not licensed, and then I go to try to get something done about this, and I find out there's no hairstylists that are licensed. That's the situation here. We're not talking about what was done to my daughter's scalp. We're talking about the fact that the market is demanding an option to take their groomers to a licensed professional.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. June, could you please ask Rosemary to comment on the necropsy issue? People feel those are being withheld because there's no fault. There are other reasons. And that's the thing. I mean,
that is so not
I've talked with Rosemary about this privately, and here's the thing. It has nothing to do with, and we're not high. If anything, if the facts about what happened came out, actually, it would make the company look very bad. So I think it's very respectable that Rosemary is not talking about the details, even though she could, and it would really just, anyways.
Okay, so Lynn wants to know, if current certificates don't matter, quote unquote, don't matter, then what validity does the state license even have then?
What?
And then, okay, so we're not saying that the certificates don't matter. So anyway, so it's Doggy Time says there is a huge difference between certificate and license.
Yeah.
Rosemary, you
Yeah.
wanna say anything?
Yeah. Those certificates will bode well for you when you take the test.
Yes.
So to say that they don't matter is outrageous, because they do. Though that's what's giving you the backing to go ahead and take the test.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn wants to know, as the bill is written, with any incident, injury, etc., needing to be reported, so that tooth could mean an incident report for you?
Yes, because there was open skin. I would have
Right.
filed an incident report.
Right.
So Alan wants to know, do people get to sue the state if a licensed groomer snaps and hurts a dog intentionally?
Sue the state.
If a licensed groomer snaps and hurts a dog intentionally.
Why would the state?
No, you wouldn't sue the state.
You would sue the groomer.
Correct.
But now you can, because he's a licensed professional.
And the license can be revoked.
Right. Or they have liability insurance.
Okay. So if you choose to sign an NDA, non-disclosure, in exchange for a settlement from a company, then that's on you. Whatever. I mean, here's the thing. The point, and here, I think it might help if we call the bill the real name. It's Pet Groomers Licensing Act.
Yes.
That's what this is about. It's not get justice for Bijou. That's already, it's water under the bridge. And Rosemary has dealt with the grief. It wasn't like this was a knee-jerk reaction. She told me that she dealt with the grief for an entire year, had come into peace with it and moved on. And then she was able to realize, wait a minute, I can do something with this. You know, she was in a good place and wanted to, and she started to do this from that place of wanting to help.
Again, this isn't about me or about Bijou. This is about all of the dogs that perished at groomers. It just so happened that this happened to me, that this happened to Bijou, and prompted me to do something about it. Any of those other people that this happened to could have done the same thing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to take the ball and fix it. That was my choice. I was telling June, after a year of trying to wrap my head around this, I actually sought out private counsel and groomers to put together this bill, which, by the way, guys, this bill took me 2 years to write. I didn't write this overnight. I didn't write this as an angst against groomers. I actually did quite the opposite, because I've come full circle, knowing just how hard dog grooming is, and I respect your industry, which is why this bill is written so well. And it's concise and it's succinct, so that it's not complicated. I purposely did it that way with the help of all of these people to make sure that it goes through legislation easily, because it's not complicated. And it seems like a lot of the people who are writing in and calling in, they have issues that have nothing to do with getting licensed.
Well, let's just for the sake of humoring them, let's just say that it was your fault. You were a neglectful dog owner and you dropped off Bijou and he was going to die anyway. He just happened to die at the groomers. That's just one. What about the other 47 that they know about?
Countless.
Right? I mean, it starts to become like the Bill Cosby case where he's like, no, I didn't rape that one. Okay, but what about the other 30 women?
Right. That's a good example. Yes, that's right. It's not, that's right. In my case, it was legit. And I'm sure in all of these other cases, I mean, I don't know every other case, but there are just far too many to go.
Exactly. And what if we say, oh, but you know what? It hasn't hit 50 yet. It's only 47.
Right.
Come on. Does it really matter? At this point, even one is one too many.
Right. And given how much support, I mean, we have the AKC, we have United Paws Group, we have a lot of, hopefully we're getting PETA on board. We have a lot of people backing this bill for all of the right reasons and none of the wrong reasons. So I just hope that the groomers who are listening out there, who either were against it or on the fence about it, maybe have a little bit more understanding and think about what this bill is really about. And it's not about me. It's not about Bijou. It's about all of the dogs. It just happens to be named Bijou's bill because that's the name of my dog. But this is about all dogs and preventing these deaths, injuries, and maims across the country, across the world. That's what this bill is about. So I hope that the groomers that are listening who have a problem with it or don't know how they feel about it, they understand the big picture. It's not about Rosemary. It's not about Bijou. It's about the big picture going forward.
Exactly. And I don't know what these people's agenda is by continuing to distract from the conversation, but it's not, like I said, okay, let's just give you guys the benefit of the doubt. And Rosemary is actually a fraud. I'm talking to a fraud right now. In fact, I'm a fraud myself. Let's just give you that. But what about the other 47 dogs that have died just in New Jersey, just in the state of New Jersey that we know about?
That's right.
Kim and Nicole are asking about bather brushers don't get a license. Will this bill eliminate bathers unless they're licensed? We've already been through this.
And also it's getting late. And Rosemary, I mean, it's already almost 9:40.
They're registered students. Okay, so they're just like a nurse, like. You're not a doctor.
It's like an apprentice. An apprentice can be 16 years old as long as they're working under the supervision of a licensed pet groomer. And it's so clear in the bill. And it's only 7 pages, guys.
Yeah, Alan.
Just read it.
Alan wants to know who's going to groom the dogs that get turned away due to behavior. If you're willing to do it, great.
Well, hey, and if you need a DIY YouTube channel, I know a guy.
Very good, June. Plug it.
So, Blue Flame, what provisions for groomers attacked and mauled by a client's dog? Again, that would go under the incident report.
Exactly.
Correct? Someone says a bather is not necessarily a student, but you're still teaching that bather.
Exactly. You're still teaching them about how to bathe the dog properly, which falls under grooming.
Okay.
Well, in the incident report, what was that? Yeah, it was anytime skin is broken on the dog or a person. So yeah, if a groomer gets mauled by a client's dog and their skin breaks, yeah, that's incident report.
There is.
Will the groomers have to be doggy CPR certified as well?
It's not in the bill, but I would like it to be in the bill. That's been discussed. It's not because the bill's already been written, but CPR would just be a good thing for every groomer to know. But it's not mandated in the bill.
That could be part of the CEU.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Lisa wants to know, who is a lay person to say whether or not I can groom?
Well, they're not. They're just.
I'm not saying.
It's the test. The test
We're
is
not
going to
saying
tell
whether or not you can groom. We're just saying that we would prefer you be licensed.
Right.
And I'm not gonna question my wife's ability to drive, but I would prefer her to be licensed.
Yes.
And I want to make this clear to the pet owners who wants to learn how to DIY dog grooming at home. That's on you. If you want to become licensed, great.
Well, this is only
for...
if you're receiving financial compensation in exchange for grooming services.
Yes. And a lot of people are asking about where you're going to get the exam dogs, supplying the dogs. We've already been through this. We are going to go through
Now, can a groomer bring their own dog? Because just in case they're worried that a shelter dog may not behave well on the table and make them look bad when they're already nervous about the test?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And someone wrote on here, Yomiko says that's a great idea, to use the shelter dogs for the test grooms because it says it'll clean them up for adoption.
For me, I'm all for it. I would be up for the challenge to groom a shelter dog that I've never met before, and I don't know what condition they'll be in. As my practical exam, I live for those kind of situations. But I can understand why a groomer may feel apprehensive, may feel a little anxiety, about that. So having the option to bring your own dog to take the test with, I think would be great.
Yes. Someone's asking, where are the tests being held? And I believe
4 different locations around the state.
Yeah. Right.
All throughout the year.
Someone wants to know, is it bijousbill.com correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I mean,
and then
just goes
because we should start. But before we wrap up, Rosemary, is there anything else that you'd like to say? Any main like any point that you wanted to cover?
Yes, because I know I'm probably talking mainly to groomers that have logged in tonight. I mean, I'm sure there's some pet owners, but I'm sure the majority are groomers. And I want them to know that this bill was done with love. This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to upset groomers, but this has been long, long overdue. And I think a lot of the groomers know that, including the big box stores, which is why they're not pushing back on this. So this has been in the works. Again, before Bijou's bill came up, there was Lucy's law that came up for a vote in California. So this isn't like a new thing. This is just a thing that is just way, way overdue, and it's being done. It just happened to happen to me.
Yeah, and I think that I think that there's really not a lot anyone can do from stopping this. I think the snowball has gone far enough down the hill where now it's not the question is not, can we stop this? With a lot of groomers, I think they're still kind of trying to galvanize like this movement against this bill. I don't think it's possible to stop this bill from passing now. It's already going that way. It's more about understanding now, what does this bill mean for me? And when I read through the bill and try to understand what the bill means for pet groomers, I like what I read. I like what I'm reading.
Okay, so I just have to interrupt real quick. I lost my where I was in the comments, but this just caught my eye. I like the idea of licensing. I would like to see a safer industry, but this bill does little to nothing, in all caps, to make grooming safer. And I have to respectfully disagree, because if we have this bill, then I do believe that the grooming industry will become more safer, because we have like incidents report stuff that we have a process to follow.
Exactly.
Right now we have nothing, so
and
not safe.
I'll give you a real life example. Okay. For me, when I first got into dog grooming, and I was telling her how horrible it was, and how the things that I was seeing, the dogs that were just being mistreated. And so late at night, I was looking for other jobs. I found a job for animal patrol. You go and catch stray dogs. Then I saw all the requirements you had to do and take a test, and you had to take a psychological exam. And at the time, I was depressed, so it stopped me. I didn't go forward with that job. Now, here's another example. The guy that I talked about earlier on my Facebook stream earlier today, where he was choking and strangling a Westie, that was a good friend of mine. And I told him, you better stop hurting my friend in front of me like that. I'm going to lose it. And so I fired him eventually. And then he came back and gloated about how he just got hired. You know what he told me? He told me that he went to a shop and he went in and told the owner, I've been grooming for 15 years and I just don't care anymore. I just want to make some money. And the owner said, great, me too. Let's just make some money. Now, when I heard that story, it motivated me it lit the fire even more inside of me. This has to stop, Right. So if we had tests and exams and background checks, because I know this guy wouldn't have passed the background check, finding out more about him. If we had these layers, these obstacles in place, it would stop most people who are in it just for the money, because it won't be worth it for them.
Yes, I mean,
I hope I made myself clear.
We can just go on and on and on and on and on. But basically, the main point is,
I can tell you story after story, horror stories.
That's what we're trying to cut down on. And I disagree with it not doing anything. I think it will do a lot of things. Would you like to have people out on the road driving without taking a driving test?
Exactly. And it's not, I passed 3 accidents just the other day. Accidents are still gonna happen, but at least there's a system in place. We know what to do when an accident happens.
But they're called accidents, not on purposes.
Exactly.
Okay, I just want to clear the air. Lynn says, but the bill only says pets must be in cages when not groomed. The bill says that. We don't get to, quote unquote, interpret it how we want. The wording needs to be clearer in the bill, then that is optional.
I guess they can add in, if you don't use cages in your shop, this does not apply.
Yeah,
I guess you can never be too clear.
Right, but
that's the thing. If we wait for a perfect bill to be written, we're gonna be waiting, and I think that's kind of the goal for a lot of these people. Just kick it down the road. Just keep kicking it down the road. Oh, it's not perfect yet.
I just want people to look at the big picture. These other things that are coming up can always be tightened up, but just getting groomers licensed is what we're trying to achieve here.
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, I think we have to end it here.
Yeah.
This can just
and some
go.
people are saying like, and here's the thing, you know, honestly, the reason why I'm willing to risk my reputation, and voice my support of something that I actually believe in, even when I stood up for Ashley's pack, a lot of people mentioned that. I made it clear I wouldn't have straddled the dog. I don't agree with the way she grooms. But I wouldn't force her to groom the way I groom, and I respect her as an artist, and I respect that that's her grooming style. And also, if she knew better, she would do better. So maybe that would be a perfect case of somebody that would benefit from having to go through some education and pass these exams in order to become a licensed groomer. And now the thing is, what I'm saying is, I think that people even accuse me of trying to make a name of myself, out of this. I'm actually risking my reputation, and I'm actually losing a lot of people who have supported me for a long time, for years. And I'm willing to do that because I believe in licensing for grooming, right? And I feel like I shouldn't have to change my beliefs or cater to other people just in order to hold my subscriber number, my likes, my follow. Who cares about that? Right. In the end, it's about, Les Brown says we should be ashamed to die before leaving the world we live in a little better. You know, we should be ashamed to die before we make a positive impact on the world we live in. So that's what this is about. Rosemary even says the same thing. It's about doing something for the future generations, for the people who are coming in behind us, as pet groomers, giving them a better path, a better way to become a pet groomer, a better career than I had.
And we didn't even touch upon how many groomers are in support of this bill, because they have wanted this in place for a long time. So there's a lot more people.
Well, I understand why some of them are silent, because of the backlash I've been getting.
Right. But eventually that won't be happening once the bill passes and people get to see, this is a good thing. This is a good thing for everybody. Pets, pet groomers, pet owners, everybody.
I have a question. Karen wants to know, she's saying that there's absolutely nothing in this bill about safety.
What? It's all about safety. Anyways,
I think this would be a good time to end this.
Yeah, because I think people are just trying to be argumentative, and
I think we're getting way off what the big picture is.
The bullet points again, which I'm not going to for the sake of time, because it's almost 10 o'clock at night. But if you go through the bill just point by point, I think that a lot of your clients would be shocked to know that you disagree with the bill.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rosemary, thank you. Okay. So give us a little timeline. So it passed the General Assembly, and now it's going to the Senate. What can we expect next for Bijou's bill?
Yes. So it's going to go through 2 Senate hearings, a Senate Commerce hearing, and then a Senate hearing where they vote on the actual bill on the floor. Then once it's passed in those 2 hearings, it goes to Governor Murphy for signing into law. And we're hoping that gets done in the next couple of months.
Next couple of months?
Yeah.
Wow, I was thinking like a year or 2 time frame. You're talking about a month or 2.
Yeah, this bill is poised to pass, and it's being fast-tracked. So I'm hoping that this gets, from my understanding, within the next couple of months.
Holy cow. So then beginning of 2019, groomers. Wow. So groomers starting next year in January will have 1 year till 2020 to get licensed.
Right. From the time that bill gets signed into law, they'll have a year to get a license.
So, I was thinking in my head, this is going to take a couple years for New Jersey. And then by the time it gets to Georgia, it might be like 20 years. I might be retired.
You can, like I said earlier in the interview, anybody from any state or any country can go on bijousbill.com, the bottom of the first page. It says, click here to read the bill. You can read the bill, print it out, take it to your local legislator, and ask them to put it up for a vote.
That, oh my goodness. So we can literally start making this happen.
Right now, who's ever listening to this and wants it done in their state, they can do this starting tomorrow if they wanted to.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I love everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for your time, for being willing to explain the bill and clarify issues that people are, you know, kind of confused about and needed a little bit more details on. I really appreciate you.
I thank you for having me, both of you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I mean, this is a hot topic. Maybe we can, you know, follow up.
Yeah, maybe in a couple of months or sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Let's plan on maybe sometime in mid or late January just to kind of get an update on where the bill is at now.
That would be great.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. I really appreciate your time. If anybody else is there any last thing? Because I mean, there's just a lot of there's so much. Just
people are saying that, you know, license doesn't secure, what is it, ensure security, or
I mean, bottom line, the marketplace, the pet owners want to be able to at least have that option to take their dog to a licensed professional. Now, if someone that they know, you know, Susie down the road, who's been grooming for 20 years, and she absolutely refuses to go through this licensing, she takes offense to it. You know, if she still has a loyal following of people who are still willing to take their dogs to her house and have her groom their dogs illegally, unlicensed, and just take that risk. I mean, I don't think this law really is able to. I don't think they have the manpower to stop each individual groomer like that from doing that.
They're saying that.
So you'll still, I'm sure people will still have the option to take their dogs to an unlicensed professional.
Well, someone was saying that if the groomer is bad, you can report them to the animal control.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it's not going to have an effect like this bill will.
No. And once you revoke someone's license, you know, it's like I'm pretty sure it's going to make life very tough for that individual if they want to continue grooming dogs for financial compensation.
Right. Right.
Perfect. Okay. So and everybody, I'm sorry if we haven't gotten to your questions. Again, it's nothing personal against you. We just wanted to try to keep all the questions and answers related to the topic that we're talking about tonight.
It's nice. Patty Rogers is going to get in touch. She says thank you to Rosemary, and then she'll be in touch with Michael.
Perfect. Wow, Patty Rogers. You know what they say, Rosemary, if you could just get one person to take some action, and we've done that. Patty Rogers in Michigan.
Anybody who wants to get in touch with me, personally, if you go to bijousbill.com, there is a tab that says pass the bill in your state. You can just click on that tab, fill it out, send it to me, and I will reply, and the reply will be this. Go to the front page of bijousbill.com, download the bill, read the bill, and then present it to your local legislators to put it up for a vote.
Perfect. Perfect. Yep. Nice. And I'm so glad we had this conversation. I'm going to actually go back and do some show notes for people who don't have time to actually watch the whole 2 hour or so plus stream. I'm going to have some condensed show notes of what we talked about and some of the, I guess, highlights of the show. And I'll put that on junthegroomer.com on my blog.
Thank you.
So yes, and then I'll go through and you know, if there's any questions, there's just so many comments constantly coming in. I'll go through, and if there's any questions that we missed that's regarding the bill, not regarding the Bijou, the dog.
If I hear necropsy one more time, I'm gonna pull my nose hairs out. Live stream.
Just to let everybody know, that is not the main goal. The main goal, the main focus is getting groomers licensed. If you have any questions regarding anything, questions, suggestions about the bill, we will get back to you on that. Other than that, if you're trying to be negative and come down,
well, and one thing I think that one thing we did accomplish is that we've helped people see that Rosemary is a real person. She's not a monster. She's not a demon. And if you wanted to contact her and say, hey, I have an issue with this part of the bill, she's already demonstrated tonight for 2 hours that she is not the type of person that's unwilling to consider what you're telling her. she's open to feedback.
And I'm out there. I'm on the internet. I mean, I'm able to get in touch with. It's not hard. There is a website and there is a form there that you can fill out. There's Bijou's Law at gmail.com. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with me. Feel free. I would welcome any feedback that anybody has for this.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Rosemary. I hope you have a great night. Thank you. I'm sorry it went a little bit over. I hope it's okay, Rosemary.
Well, of course it's okay. It's really important. I thank you guys for hosting me.
Oh, it was our pleasure. It really was. It really was. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we learned so much. Okay, so then we'll, Rosemary, we'll get back in touch with you sometime in January.
Very good.
And yeah, we'll talk to you later then.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. We actually have to get going ourselves. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rosemary. Have a great night.
So.
Bye.
Bye.